Good morning and welcome to the South Carolina Public Service Commission. We are here today on docket number 2025-323E. We have had several public hearings in this matter, and we're prepared if necessary if any public wanted to speak today, but we had no one sign up. So we will be able to go directly into the hearing. Present in the hearing rooms, Commissioner Belser, Commissioner Britt, Commissioner Caston, Commissioner Whitfield, Vice Chair Williams, and I am Chair Powers. Joining us virtually is Commissioner Eugene Henley. Before we begin, Ms. Westerhill, would you please explain the purpose of today's hearing in relation to the Citing Act?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The hearing before you this morning is in docket number 2025-323E concerning the joint application of the South Carolina Public Service Authority, also known as Santee Cooper, and Dominion Energy South Carolina Incorporated for a certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience and necessity for the construction and operation of an advanced classed combined cycle generating plant and associated facilities in Colleton County, South Carolina, filed pursuant to the South Carolina Citing Act on December 15th. The hearing today is a continuation of the hearing that began on March 12, 2026, as well as the public hearings as the chairman just mentioned, and it is for receiving party testimony and evidence concerning the joint application. It was scheduled and noticed by the clerk's office to begin today on Tuesday, April the 14th, 2026 at 10 a.m. and continuing each day thereafter, subject to the call of the chair. Mr. Chairman, upon inquiry of all participating counsel of record, counsel of the parties are present and available for appearances, and there is just one minor preliminary matter in the beginning.
Thank you, Ms. Westerhill. Would the parties now introduce themselves, beginning with Dominion?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman Williams, members of the commission. My name is Chad Burgess, and with me today is Elizabeth Hutton. She and I are in-house corporate counsel for Dominion Energy South Carolina. Also with us today is Belton Ziegler from the law firm of Womble Bond Dickinson, who serves as the company's outside counsel. It's a pleasure to appear before you today, and we appreciate y'all having us.
Thank you very much. Santee Cooper.
Good morning, Chairman Powers, Vice Chairman Williams, members of the commission. Stephen Pelcher on behalf of Santee Cooper. And joining me today includes Ashley Cooper of the Baker Donaldson Law Firm, Catherine Wren of the Baker Donaldson Law Firm, Edwin Kamahoa. He's an in-house attorney with me. And back here, Boone Aiken of the Baker Donaldson Law Firm.
Thank you very much. South Carolina Coastal Conservation League and Southern Alliance for Clean Energy.
Yes, Chair Powers, Kate Mixon on behalf of South Carolina Coastal Conservation League and the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. And with me here today is my co-counsel, Thomas Gooding.
Ms. Mixon, I know you were virtual the last couple of hearings or last couple of weeks, and I realize supposedly you had a cold. I don't know how, but I think I caught it virtually.
Well, I'm sorry for that, Chair Powers. I take full responsibility.
All right. Sierra Club.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Robert Guile from Columbia. With me is Sari Amiel with the Sierra Club's Environmental Law Program.
Welcome. Frank Knapp, Jr.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm Frank Knapp.
All right, sir. Carolina Gas Transmission, LLC.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm John Boyd, and with me today is Steve Matthews.
Good. Thank you. Nucor Steel.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Rob Smith with Moore & Van Allen. I'm joined online by Mike Lavanga with Stone, Matthias, Sinopoulos, and Brew.
Thank you very much. CMC Steel, South Carolina. All right. Santee Cooper Industrial Customer Group.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Scott Elliott. I represent the customer group. Thank you,
Welcome, Mr. Elliott. Lauren V. Moody Stanfield.
Chair Powers, Will Cook. I'm assisted by my colleagues Jessica Fickling and Brandon Stone and Matt Creech. We represent Ms. Stanfield as an intervener, along with John Burbage.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Office of Regulatory Staff.
Good morning, Chair Powers and members of the Commission. Appearing on behalf of ORS, my name is Claire Binge, and I'm joined today by my colleagues Tom Philopoulos and Jasmine Gunning.
Thank you very much. We have additional statutory parties, which I'm going to name: South Carolina Department of Environmental Services. Anyone online for them? South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, and South Carolina Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. All right, I think that covers it. It's my understanding that some of the parties may want to make an opening statement, and I'll be happy to do that. We can go around the room from there. Mr. Burgess?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have an opening statement. I just had a point of order I just wanted to bring to the Commission's attention. We're obviously joint applicants with Santee Cooper and DESC, and as you just heard, DESC has its own set of lawyers and Santee Cooper has its own set of lawyers. And we have panel testimony that we're going to present to y'all today, and it's going to be a mix of both company witnesses from DESC and Santee Cooper. The DESC lawyers will be responsible for the DESC witnesses when it comes to any objections or any need to do redirect examination, and the same is true for the Santee Cooper lawyers. They'll handle any matters that need to be tended to with respect to their specific witnesses. But for ease, we'll just have one lawyer present the panel, get their testimony into the record as well as their exhibits. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. If you see different people kind of popping up at different times, you understand why.
Mr. Burgess, you don't think this stuff's confusing enough as it is?
We're going to do our best to try to be as less confusing as possible. But
all right.
Certainly appreciate
well, since
that.
I've made the statement, does anyone want to make an opening statement of any sort?
Good morning. Sierra Club would like to make an opening statement.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Pull that to where it's comfortable. These microphones are movable, so everybody put it to where you're comfortable rather than stooping over to talk.
Okay, thank you. I assume if no one can hear me, they'll let me know. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Sari Amiel. I'm here on behalf of Sierra Club along with Bob Gild. Before the commission today is a request to spend at least $5 billion and potentially much more in ratepayer dollars on a new gas plant, while keeping online 3 costly aging coal plants that the joint resource was originally intended to replace. At this hearing, and through the pre-filed testimony of witness Lucy Metz, Sierra Club will show that the costs of the joint resource have doubled from an estimated $2.5 billion in August 2024, when Santee Cooper CEO Jimmy Staten sought approval to construct the joint resource from the state Senate, to $5 billion in December 2025, when the joint applicants filed the present CCPCN motion, application. Despite this recent doubling in cost, there are still many more variables that could increase project costs above $5 billion as the project is constructed throughout the next 7 or so years. For example, the joint applicants have yet to sign a contract with qualified engineering, procurement, and construction contractors, which is the largest component of the project's construction costs. The joint applicants could also face supply chain delays or cost spikes, or macroeconomic risks such as high tariffs and inflation, or geopolitical risks such as trade wars or armed conflicts. Meanwhile, to be fully operational, the joint resource also requires construction and permitting for 3 different gas pipelines and multiple transmission upgrades, including new transmission lines, a new switchyard, and a new substation. None of these construction processes have begun yet. During the public hearing, numerous ratepayers expressed concerns about their already high electricity bills. These ratepayers deserve some certainty as to the cost of this gas plant and how it will impact their wallets. There is no certainty, however, for these concerned ratepayers if the project's total costs can significantly exceed the $5 billion estimate, which is already a high price tag. You'll likely hear a lot over the course of this hearing from both Dominion and Santee Cooper about prospective load growth in the Low Country, in large part due to data centers. But the joint applicants' ratepayers should not be on the hook to subsidize the development of hypothetical future data centers by paying for more generation, transmission, or gas pipeline infrastructure than is necessary to meet the joint applicants' currently projected needs. Capping the total costs of this project will enable the Commission to protect ratepayers from a recurrence of the debacle with the VC Summer plant, where the cost of building 2 new nuclear units, which never came online, ballooned for years before the Commission capped those costs to protect ratepayers. Another important way to limit costs and protect ratepayers is if the Commission requires that the joint applicants retire 3 costly aging coal plants, whose retirement has been tied to the construction of this joint resource for multiple years. In recent IRPs, both Dominion and Santee Cooper set retirement dates for their Wateree, Williams, and Wynya coal plants that coincided with the construction of a new combined cycle resource to replace those plants' capacity. The joint applicants are now attempting to decouple these long-planned retirements from the construction of the joint resource, essentially having their cake and eating it too, with their already overburdened ratepayers footing the bill. By failing to retire the Wateree, Williams, and Wynya coal plants by the time the Kennedy's plant is built, the joint applicants will have to sink millions of dollars into extensive upgrades to comply with federal regulations. This unnecessary spending is both unreasonable and contrary to the public interest. Accordingly, Sierra Club asks that the Commission reject the joint applicant's CCPCN application as it currently stands, or alternatively approve it subject to several modifications to protect ratepayers. These protections include, first, a firm commitment on the part of the joint applicants to retire the Wateree, Wynya, and Williams coal plants upon construction of the joint resource. Second, a cost cap that limits the project costs to the $5 billion currently estimated. Third, a commitment from Santee Cooper not to include hypothetical large load customers that lack signed contracts in its resource procurement decisions. And finally, a commitment from Dominion to explore a large load tariff for its service territory consistent with those of Santee Cooper and Central Electric Co-op. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this statement.
Thank you very much. And let me assure you, we put great credence in what we heard from these many hearings from the public. And certainly, as Act 41 requires, we've got to receive credible information and credible evidence that this is necessary, and the burden's on the companies to do so. So we are weighing this very carefully, and appreciate your input. Any further statements? Mr. Gooding.
Thank you, Chair Powers. Can you hear me?
Yes. That's a cute little microphone.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good morning, and thank you again. Good morning, Vice Chair Williams and members of the Commission. Thomas Gooding on behalf of the South Carolina Coastal Conservation League and Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. We appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today to present our case, opposing Dominion and Santee Cooper's request to construct a nearly 2,200 megawatt gas-fired power plant on the banks of the Edisto River, a project that threatens one of the most environmentally sensitive areas of South Carolina. Joint applicants have failed to satisfy the requirements of the Siting Act. Neither Dominion nor Santee Cooper has shown that the proposed joint resource has been compared to other generation options in terms of cost, liability, transmission constraints, or fuel supply, among other factors. Neither has established that the joint resource supports system economy and reliability in light of those considerations, and neither has demonstrated, among other things, the basis of the need for the facility, that the impact of the facility upon the environment is justified, or that public convenience and necessity require the construction of the joint resource. Critically, Santee Cooper has failed to meet its additional requirements under the Siting Act. It has failed to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that the construction of the joint resource constitutes a more cost-effective means for serving its customers and provides less ratepayer risk than other feasibly available long-term power supply alternatives, while maintaining safe and reliable electric service. It has failed to prove that energy efficiency, demand-side management, renewable energy, or any combination of available long-term power supply alternatives would not establish or maintain a more cost-effective and reliable generation system. And it has failed to prove that the construction and operation of the facility is in the public interest. For years, joint applicants have treated the Kennedy's project as a foregone conclusion, disregarding meaningful evaluation of other resource options, and instead forcing the joint resource even as its purpose has changed, its size and costs have substantially increased, and its timeline for completion has become more and more uncertain. Now joint applicants propose to push forward with executing the project, exposing residents and businesses in South Carolina to serious risks. The joint resource relies on the successful completion of 3 major interstate pipeline projects, each susceptible to significant execution risks, construction delays, cost escalation, procurement challenges, permit denials, among others. The delay or failure of even one of these 3 pipelines would have serious implications for the joint resource, jeopardizing the project's success and exposing customers to the risk of stranded asset costs or otherwise major cost overruns. Already, the estimated cost to construct the joint resource has doubled in just the past year, from $2.5 to $5 billion, an estimate that remains highly speculative as the cost of necessary equipment continues to rise and supply constraints persist. Currently, one of the most, if not the most, expensive elements of this project, the engineering, procurement, and construction contract, remains to be seen. Even still, the costs included in the joint applicant's $5 billion estimate do not include other related investments beyond the Kennedy site, nor do they include ongoing costs, fuel, operations, maintenance, firm transportation. Major transmission upgrades, for example, are tentatively projected to cost an additional $550 million in today's dollars, while the price of natural gas remains highly volatile and poised to increase sharply in response to major geopolitical events. Other potential costs go beyond mere dollars and cents. The cost to the natural environment, marred by industrialization, habitat loss, ecological damage, the cost to a local resident whose hometown loses its rural character, the cost to a farmer burdened by a new pipeline or displaced by a new data center, the cost to local communities concerned about losing access to clean air and clean water, and the cost of destroying irreplaceable ecosystems, natural resources that once gone are gone forever. Joint applicants will claim that the Kennedy's project will result in no significant environmental impacts due to the nature of the site and certain plant design features. They'll argue, for example, that the proposed location of the joint resource is a brownfield site and therefore poses fewer environmental risks than other potential sites. Not only does their argument disregard other brownfield sites in the utility's service territories, as I'll note shortly, but it also overlooks a material fact, that the joint resource relies on a 71-mile greenfield gas pipeline through the Ace Basin, one of the most treasured natural places in South Carolina, irreplaceable among the largest undeveloped estuaries on the East Coast. The pipeline, the Elba Bridge project, must first pass underneath the Savannah River before crossing miles of critical streams and wetlands, appropriating the private property of South Carolina residents along the way, before reaching one of the largest gas-fueled power plants in the region. The surrounding area, as joint applicants explain, is characterized primarily by agricultural and recreational uses, with some 50% of the Edisto River Basin surrounding the Kennedy's site designated as, quote, prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance. The joint resource and its attendant pipeline project threaten to draw mega data centers and industrial development to this irreplaceable natural refuge. While described as a brownfield site, the joint resource's proposed location, which has been remediated since the closure of Dominion's coal plant more than a decade ago, is directly adjacent to the Edisto River, one of the longest free-flowing blackwater rivers in North America, and one of the most important ecological features of the South Carolina Lowcountry. Whether the joint resource uses groundwater from wells or surface water from the Edisto itself, the amount of water required to operate the Kennedy's plant and the amount of wastewater discharged back into the environment may still be enormous. Using 90% less water than other traditional plants, for example, may still mean using hundreds of thousands of gallons of water per day, tens of millions of gallons per month. In addition to water quality concerns, air emissions are important to consider as well. The joint applicants will argue without evidence that the joint resource will have limited air emissions, even though to our knowledge they have not conducted or disclosed any modeling sufficient to ascertain the potential air impacts of the proposed facility. Instead, joint applicants will attempt to distract from the environmental risks inherent in the Kennedy's project by pointing to an unrelated mitigation bank that Dominion owns near the proposed site. Joint applicants would like you to view the mitigation bank as a gesture of environmental stewardship. But we see it less as an example of what joint applicants care to preserve and more as an example of what their proposed project threatens to sacrifice. Critical habitat for diverse flora and fauna, natural landscapes threatened by the proposed project's environmental footprint, as well as its contributions to climate change. It's curious that joint applicants would cite Dominion's mitigation bank in relation to this project when the 71-mile greenfield pipeline necessary to supply it is expected to cut through other conservation easements in the Ace Basin and spur industrialization at the expense of conservation and environmental protection. For these reasons and more, joint applicants should not pursue this project. Unfortunately, they do not need to. As you will hear from witnesses Hoteling, Smead, and Cannon, CCL and SACE's analysis in this case confirms that there are cost-comparable, reliable, and less risky alternatives to the joint resource. Alternatives that not only meet joint applicants' energy and capacity needs, but also mitigate serious risks and provide several benefits compared to the joint resource. Our alternative portfolio presents less execution risk, materially reducing the need for new gas pipeline infrastructure and transmission capital expenditures. Our portfolio results in lower carbon emissions, provides greater resource diversity for both Dominion and Santee Cooper systems, and develops several smaller resources across multiple sites instead of building one large resource, maximizing the use of the utility's existing brownfield sites or sites near transmission assets, while mitigating the impact of any single project's delay or failure. Critically, CCL and SACE's alternative portfolio identifies cost-comparable, less risky, reliable alternatives to the joint resource, but the purpose of our analysis is not to propose a replacement resource plan for the Commission to approve in this docket. The purpose of our analysis is narrowly defined: to evaluate, based principally on Dominion and Santee Cooper's own assumptions, whether the joint applicants have met their burden of proof by meaningfully comparing the proposed project to reasonable available alternatives. Our analysis confirms that they've not. Joint applicants will claim that it's too late to change course, that they can't serve growing customer demand or sustain economic development without the proposed joint resource. They will continue to force the narrative that the future of the state's economic prosperity hinges on the approval of this gas plant. That is simply not true. We do not dispute that joint applicants may require additional generation to retire aging coal assets and serve growing load, but joint applicants have not proven that they need this specific resource in this specific location to serve that purpose. Meaningful evaluation of feasible alternatives is important. In fact, it is a requirement of the Siting Act, a requirement reinforced by the passage of Act 41. To be clear, Act 41 does not pre-approve this project or make a finding that this project is in the public interest. Act 41 does not replace meaningful regulatory review with a simple box checking exercise. Act 41 simply encouraged joint applicants to evaluate a potential joint resource at or near Dominion's Kennedy site and gave Santee Cooper authorization to jointly own such resource if pursued. The legislature made clear, however, that any request to actually build the joint resource or any other applicable energy infrastructure project will be subject to the strict requirements of the Siting Act, requirements joint applicants have not satisfied. It is now up to the Commission whether to allow joint applicants to pursue this project and its inherent risks, or to protect South Carolina residents, communities, and irreplaceable places in the Ace Basin by denying Dominion and Santee Cooper's application. Thank you for this opportunity, and we look forward to presenting our case to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Gooding. Any other parties would like to make a statement at this time? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair Powers and Commissioners. As I mentioned earlier, I appear today on behalf of interveners John Burbidge and Lauren Stanfill. For our clients, this case isn't about a dot on a map in Colleton County. It goes beyond the project's footprint. It's about real people and real places. It's about farms and waterways and communities that would carry the permanent burdens of a single integrated project, both the power plant and the gas supply that makes it run. The area potential effect here is more than an abstract concept. I think of it more as a continuous zone of impact spanning multiple counties, private lands, wetlands, and rivers that connect the Ace Basin, as well as its southern cousin, the Carolina Bight, to downstream coastal systems. Air quality and public health also matter. Gas-fired power plants emit particulate pollution with health consequences that don't stop at county lines. Those emissions will affect statewide and regional air quality. And history matters. When this commission is asked to rely on promises of environmental stewardship, it must ask whether trust alone is enough. Experience suggests it is not. As the commission well knows, its job is to protect the public interest as it is lived on the ground, balancing the stated benefits of the proposed project as well as its costs. Available evidence suggests that the costs outweigh the benefits. Deny the application, or at a minimum, require rigorous enforceable protections to ensure these burdens are not unfairly placed on the people and communities least able to bear them.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? All right. Parties, it's back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the joint applicants, we call Keller Kassam and Jimmy Staten to the stand.
All right, please come forward, gentlemen.
Mr. Kassam, if you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And Mr. Staten, if you'll raise your right hand. Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Kassam, I'll start with you. Would you please state your full name for the record?
Keller Kassam,
And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
Dominion Energy, South Carolina, President.
Direct supervision.
I'm sorry, your mic went off. I don't know whether it's back there or.
Can you hear me? Sounds like it's on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Very good. Mr. Kassam, did you prepare or cause to be prepared under your direct supervision and pre-filed in this docket 36 pages of direct testimony?
Yes, sir.
Are there any changes or corrections required of your direct testimony?
No, sir.
If I ask you all the questions contained in your pre-filed direct testimony, would your answers be the same?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, at this time we would move into the record the pre-filed direct testimony of Keller Kassam as of given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Keller Kassam will be entered in the record as if given orally from the stand.
All right, and I'll turn to you next. Mr. Staten, would you please state your full name?
Excuse me. My name is Jimmy D. Staten.
And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by the South Carolina Public Service Authority as its president and CEO.
And Mr. Staten, did you prepare or cause to be prepared under your direct supervision and pre-filed in this docket direct testimony consisting of 31 pages?
Yes, I did.
Are there any changes or corrections required of your direct testimony?
No, sir.
If I ask you all the questions contained in your pre-filed direct testimony, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we would move it to the record the pre-filed direct testimony of Jimmy D. Stanton as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Staten will be entered in the record as if given orally from the stand.
Mr. Kassam, did you prepare a summary of your testimony?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Staten, did you also prepare a summary of your testimony?
I did.
All right, if y'all just sit tight for 1 second. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to get these gentlemen to deliver their summary. In conjunction with their summary, we have a video that we would like to play for you at the appropriate time. That video has no audio. It'll be narrated by Mr. Kassam. So when Mr. Staten is done with his summary, he'll come over here and take the podium for me. He'll walk you through the video. The purpose of the video is to orient the commissioners about the site and also identify where certain components will be located on the site in the event that we're given authorization to construct it. And Mr. Andrew Walker is going to run the video, so he'll step up to the other podium there in a moment.
Is any objection from any parties about the video? Has it been discussed with other parties?
We did share the video with the other parties. That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you very much.
And
That'll
thank
be
you
good.
all for not having any objections. We appreciate it.
Proceed.
Okay, Mr. Kassam, would you please deliver your summary at this time?
Good morning, Chairman Powers, Vice Chairman Williams, and members of the Public Service Commission of South Carolina. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you this morning to testify to the public convenience and necessity of the construction of a combined cycle generating facility to be co-owned and operated with Santee Cooper at the former site of 3 coal-fired boilers at Kennedy's, South Carolina. I'm proud to be joined by members of my family of employees who execute on our charge every minute of every day to meet the instantaneous energy needs of our fellow South Carolinians. Mr. Sean Randall, Vice President of Gas Distribution and Customer Solutions, who I've had the privilege to work with for nearly 30 years, will discuss the natural gas fueling arrangements for Kennedy's and the inherent benefits for South Carolina. Mr. Andrew Walker, Senior Generation Development Manager, will then provide Kennedy's technical aspects, its engineering and configuration, construction schedule, and environmental enhancements, and its contribution to system economy and reliability. Then Mr. James Neely, Energy Market Strategic Advisor, will provide economic justification for Kennedy's in comparison to other generation options. And Commissioner Britt, in those night hearings, I think you asked twice, you know, how does this compare in size? This 190-acre site that will contain the 2 substations and the plant in comparison to other generation forms. I think a Clemson professor in another case gave you 20,000 acres. I think one individual, I think it was the director of the Charleston Climate Council, he couldn't answer your question. And then somebody else told you about an 800 megawatt with 300 megawatts of batteries. I confirmed that from the night hearings. Mr. Neely will be able to talk to you about energy because they focused on energy. This will be energy and capacity. Given that solar is about 20% capacity, this plant will run over 90% capacity. And when you put all that together, the size of the alternate space for like solar as well as batteries, well, it'll cover Lake Murray, which is 57,000 acres. So, and he'll be able to provide you with more in-depth technical knowledge regarding that. So I'm appreciative of your questions during those night hearings that we had and found that discourse very valuable. Mr. Scott Parker will utilize the transmission impact analysis and interconnection studies he has performed to highlight the definitive need for the Kennedy's generation resource in supporting system efficiency and reliability for the transmission needs of Dominion Energy South Carolina. In addition to these DESC representatives, Mr. Nathan Bass, Director of Planning with Energy Grid Solutions, will discuss the viability of the project to be constructed and its environmental impact, given its technological advantages compared to available alternatives. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and fellow commissioners, thank you for the opportunity in allowing these individuals to present their important testimony. Why Kennedy's? Why now? In my testimony, I offer an assessment of my home Palmetto State that has not been experienced in my lifetime. South Carolina's robust economy and growth tied to mass migration to our state has caused it to become the fastest growing state in the nation. Whether I personally like the change in the demographics is of no consequence to this proceeding, but it is clear that our obligation to serve such growth brings us before this commission today. Coupled with ever-changing weather conditions, all 3 customer classes, residential, commercial, and industrial, are growing at an unprecedented pace. Also in the year 2000, DESC had 12, I'll say that again, 12 coal-fired boilers operating on its system. Today, we have 4. 2 of the coal-fired workhorses on the DESC system, Watery and Williams generating stations, were built in 1971 and 1973, respectively. They have some age on them, to put it mildly. And contrary to what you heard at some of the night hearing testimony, DESC has embraced solar on its system, having connections with over 1,200 megawatts of third-party solar. That's pretty substantial given a total system of 5,600 megawatts. And in fact, probably even more counter to testimony we all heard, on April the 8th, at 14:36 hours, solar generation accounted for 49.5% of the instantaneous generation on the Dominion Energy system in that one instance. 49.5. Where I come from, we round that up to 50. And so I will also say that within 6 hours, that same day, it was 0. Within 6 hours that same day, it was 0. DESC is certainly embraced on all of the above energy strategy in order to align generation resources to meet the ever-increasing energy growth in South Carolina, which is where the absolute need for Kennedy's comes in. In my testimony, I discussed the flexibility that comes with natural gas generation. It has the greatest ability to pair with non-dispatchable resources, such as solar, that we have connected to our system. If you were to come into our system control, you'd be able to witness how the gas plants that we currently have are put in auto sync with solar and how they follow them through the darkness of the morning, through the brightness of the sun coming up and through noon, and then follow them again when it goes away at the end of the day. You'll also see how they follow them when we get cloud cover or a thunderstorm that comes over those facilities. It's like an accelerator and a brake. It's there, and that's why this facility is so needed. Not to eliminate solar, to proliferate solar on the Dominion Energy South Carolina system. In fact, I even discussed sister facilities to Kennedy's, as I mentioned, Columbia Energy Center here in Calhoun County, and Jasper Generating Facility down in Jasper County, and then the wonderful Fairfield Pump Storage Facility that we operate in Fairfield County. They have allowed for the proliferation of solar on the DESC system and allows our system controllers to account for non-dispatchable characteristics so as not to impact customer service and reliability. I then discussed the optimal value of the Kennedy site, and you'll see it a little while in this video. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Ironically, prior to its retirement, environmental leaders urged SC&G, South Carolina Electric and Gas Company, that Kennedy's 3 boilers be converted to what? Natural gas. I listened intently in night hearings to the overwhelming majority of folks extol the natural virtue of the Ace Basin. And I fish and I duck hunt and I love the Ace Basin, and I want it to stay just as it is. I feel the same way that they do from that perspective. However, it confirmed for me and for you, in their own words, not my words, in their own words, that the safe, reliable, and responsible operation, because it was all that Charleston night hearing was about the beauty of the Ace Basin, and I agree with those folks, in their own words. But it confirmed for me that the safe, reliable, and responsible operation of our Kennedy's coal plant from 1962 to 2013, coal plant operating right there on the banks of the Edisto River, had not diminished the natural marvel that is the Ace Basin. We now are requesting certification to now honor the request to convert the site to natural gas generation. And we propose to do it in an even more technologically efficient and environmentally sensitive manner. So on a site at the electrical crossroads of the low country of South Carolina, the electrical intersection of the low country of South Carolina, on a site that's already disturbed, been cleaned up, it's been prepped perfectly for construction, and zoned already for its use. From a former coal-fired site will rise a new generation of technology, superior generating assets to continue to meet the energy needs of South Carolina. This is exactly what the South Carolina General Assembly envisioned and Government Master executed into law with the supermajority passage of Act 41, the South Carolina Energy Security Act. And this historic legislation, the General Assembly has authorized Santee Cooper to enter into a partnership with Dominion Energy South Carolina to co-own and receive 1/2 each of the generating capacity of 2,180 megawatts and share in the ownership and operation of this facility. Construction oversight will come from a project steering committee headed by the Chief Operating Officer of Santee Cooper, Mr. Mike Fennessy. I further testify that this type of partnership has served South Carolina well at VC Summer Station, a 1,000 megawatt nuclear facility co-owned by DESC and Santee Cooper. Kennedy's is a proven light natural gas facility already operated in South Carolina by both Dominion Energy South Carolina and Santee Cooper, and that'd be separately. It provides reliable, efficient, environmentally safe generation to meet the growth and customer energy requirements of our state. I respectfully request that you approve the joint application that both Dominion Energy South Carolina and Santee Cooper have made under the Siting Act, confirming that the Kennedy's joint resource will serve the interest of system economy and reliability, that the evidence before the Commission demonstrates the public convenience and necessity supporting the issuance of a certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience necessity for the construction of this South Carolina resource. Thank you for both your time and consideration as I cede this time to Mr. Jimmy Staten.
Good morning, Chairman Powers, Vice Chairman Williams, and members of the commission. At the outset, I want to thank my friend and partner, Mr. Kassam, for his overview of the joint application and the Kennedy's joint resource. In my summary, I will cover portions of my direct testimony that focus on the project from Santee Cooper's perspective, why this resource is needed for our system, how it fits within our long-term generation strategy, and why it is important to the state's energy future. In my direct testimony, I introduce Santee Cooper witnesses who will address various aspects of the project in greater detail. Briefly, Mr. Clay Settle will address resource planning, load forecasts, and the modeling showing why the Kennedy's joint resource is needed and cost-effective. Mr. Will Stevick will address the proposed facilities, technology, the construction schedule, and costs. Mr. Richard Kirkpatrick will address fuel procurement and gas transportation coordination, and Mr. Chris Wagner will address transmission and interconnection. These individuals have worked extremely hard on this project, and I want to publicly acknowledge my appreciation for their tremendous efforts. As Mr. Kassam has explained, South Carolina is experiencing rapid and unprecedented growth, and Santee Cooper is experiencing the same. The growth we are experiencing in Santee Cooper's service territories drives the immediate need for additional energy capacity from generating sources such as the Kennedy's joint resource. Our 2025 system load forecast for the central Santee Cooper combined system shows an increase in system demand of over 1,000 megawatts by the early 2030s. And since 2021, Santee Cooper's summer peak has grown steadily by approximately 16%. The Kennedy's joint resource is a critical part of our plan to meet the increase in demand. The General Assembly has recognized the importance of sufficient, reliable, safe, and economical energy to the health, safety, and well-being of the citizens of South Carolina and to the state's economic development and prosperity. The Energy Security Act expressly encourages Santee Cooper and DESC to jointly complete evaluations related to construction of a joint resource to address energy needs and advance the economy and general welfare of the state. In that respect, the Kennedy's joint resource aligns not only with Santee Cooper's generation planning, but also with the policy direction the state has established for meeting South Carolina's growing energy needs. Santee Cooper will own and be able to dispatch approximately 1,090 megawatts of the Kennedy's joint resources 2,180 megawatt capacity. From Santee Cooper's perspective, the Kennedy's joint resource is supported by Central Electric Power Cooperative as a shared resource for our combined system. The Kennedy's joint resource is expected to be fully in service by the middle of 2033. When in service, it will provide reliable, 24/7 dispatchable capacity, including during high load and extreme weather events, and it will serve as a flexible, quick ramp resource necessary to reliably integrate intermittent resources like solar. The combined cycle technology is highly efficient, offers flexibility for dispatch and maintenance, and has much less carbon dioxide emissions compared to other dispatchable technologies. And thanks to the design of its air-cooled condensers, will utilize much less water and have less water discharge than traditional recycling water tower-cooled condensers have. The Kennedy's joint resource is a key component of Santee Cooper's long-term generation strategy and will serve as a backbone of dispatchable generation for decades to come. In addition, as the joint application reflects, and Witness Wagner will discuss further, the Kennedy's brownfield site is strategically located in South Carolina in a way that will allow Santee Cooper to serve load centers efficiently, to support voltage stability, and improve regional reliability. The joint ownership structure also provides important benefits. By collaborating with DESC, together we can build this facility to a size and a scale that will optimize the former Kennedy's brownfield site while leveraging our combined knowledge, expertise, and vendor relationships. The Kennedy's joint resource will allow Santee Cooper and DESC to benefit from economies of scale with regard to procurement, construction equipment, construction labor, engineers, and gas infrastructure, and will also produce operational and maintenance savings. As Mr. Kassam noted, the partnership itself reflects the practical value of developing this project in a coordinated manner for the benefit of both utilities and for the state of South Carolina. I respectfully ask that you approve this application, as the Kennedy's joint resource is an essential part of Santee Cooper's resource diversification strategy and will result in the most cost-effective and least risk option to meet the needs of our consumers. To help orient everyone to the site where the Kennedy's joint resource will be located and to the benefits of this site, we have a short drone footage video which Mr. Kassam is going to introduce now.
Am I still on here? Okay. Go ahead, Andrew. We're going to take you on a little crow fly here. You're pulling off I-95 here, go across the Edisto River. I'm sure you've driven it many times. You get off on the Kennedy's exit. This is going south on Highway 61, headed towards Highway 15. And if you look over to the left-hand side, that is where the former coal-fired plant with 3 boilers, its coal pile, was situated. And so I'm going to orient you. We're going to go down here and hang a left. When you get here, you'll see the rail. There's a lot of talk about the pipeline right-of-way and things of that nature. This is the rail that came in. It was Hampton and Branchville, and they would bring coal from CSX in Hampton up to the plant. It was a short line track. It's now Palmetto Railways that is under the authority of the South Carolina Department of Economic Development. One thing you'll also notice over here is you'll notice all these transmission lines when I talked about it being the energy intersection. So from this site, think about a compass. We have transmission lines that go north to St. George, south to Yemassee, west to Savannah River site and Cope, and east to Ritter, and then on to Charleston. It is truly the electrical intersection of South Carolina. And I need to mention, it works so well with Santee Cooper being a partner. We have 19 physical interconnections from our transmission system to Santee Cooper's system. If you continue to move down here, you'll start to approach, and over here is where the plant was. Let me get a little longer on my pointer here. This is where the plant was, and the coal pile was over in this area. So it's been cleaned up and remediated, as we say. This is the existing substation, and you can see the transmission that comes into here. Now, ultimately, this substation will be abandoned, and there will be 2 additional substations that will be established on the site. The 2 different transmission voltages both us and Santee Cooper have. 230 kV, so you'll have the Edisto River 230 kV substation, which will be down here where we made that left-hand turn. It'll be right there on your left. And then further up and to the right will be the Colleton County 115 kV substation. That 115 will be Dominion Energy South Carolina. The 230 kV substation that I talked about will be jointly owned and operated by both Santee Cooper and Dominion Energy. Hence, again, the energy intersection of South Carolina. If you look right here, you'll see this is where Berkshire Hathaway, they're a company out of Omaha, Nebraska. They own Carolina Gas Transmission, and they dogleg into this right-of-way right here with their 8-inch pipeline. This is their right-of-way that runs parallel to the 230 kV, and it goes into the electrical substation and then takes off from there. If you look at that little white building right there, they actually have a mainline block valve station that exists right here. So it kind of shows you how they dogleg into the site. One of our neighbors that we've been blessed to have over the years is Colleton County State Park, which is located over in this area. They've been a good neighbor of ours, and we've tried to be a good neighbor of theirs since 1962. And one of the things that is really good about this is you're going to see it in a little while when this drone pivots, is we're moving away from the park and the construction will be away from the park. The construction is also away from Carolina Gas Transmission coming up through the substation in that regard. And keep in mind that this pipeline was here when we demoed the facility that was over here. And one of the most impressive things about that was dynamite charges that were put down at the bottom of the 3 stacks. Kind of shook the ground, but we were very conscious of that other energy infrastructure that was there on the site. Move on. So the Edisto River is in the background there. You'll see it. And we're getting ready to take a pivot here and look at the actual place where the plant will be located. Pay special attention as we turn here as a reference point, this pipe rack that goes across the Edisto River. It is, of course, inactive at this time. But if you come here, you're going to see the whole scope of where the construction would be. So over here were the ash ponds. And so we committed to cleaning up those ash ponds. And the great thing about that is South Carolina has 3 great resources. Cement plants that are located down yonder in Harleyville and Holly Hill. And the majority of this ash that was cleaned out of here went to beneficial reuse. So it's in homes, it's in roads, it's in bridges, because it goes into the cement and it goes into the block. When you see a house being built and they block the basement or they block the footings, it's coming probably from this plant if it came from those cement plants down there. So a good relationship that we have with them that extends on in today. Don't be alarmed by the equipment that you see here. We haven't started construction yet with respect to the PSC and the siding. This is just left over from our ability to go in here, clear this site, clean up this site, fill it back with engineered backfill, and then prep it for construction activities to commence here. So this is the site that you see there at Kennedy's from that perspective. These are just some old warehouse buildings and things of that nature that were left over from before. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move forward, keep the pipe rack in mind, keep the site in mind, and we're going to kind of show you a rendering of where this plant will be located. So there it is. There's your pipe rack right there, right down there. So that shows you where it'll be located. Now, let's talk about some of the components of this facility going forward. First of all, you got to have clean air. So this is where air comes into it. Behind each one of these air ducts is your gas turbine. So it's a gas turbine. It's like a jet engine that just simply spins. So gas is injected to it, that hot gas. Now, a lot of folks have said, well, just put these gas turbines all over South Carolina. Why you need a combined cycle? Let's just do peakers. Well, with peakers, you lose your heat. It goes up to the atmosphere. But why is this so efficient? Why is it so environmentally sensitive? Well, what happens is each one of these has a HRSG on the back. We'll talk more. Mr. Walker, he'll talk about that HRSG. And it has duct firing, so you catch all of that exhaust. You ever been on an airplane, looked out the window, seen that, and felt it? Or you walking on the walkway to get up to a plane, you feel that heat coming out the back of that engine, and that thrust, that's what it catches. And then it catches it, and it rolls it over. So you go from these steam generators, this is why it's called a one-on-one, one-on-one, one-on-one. Each one of these steam generators, and then the HRSG catching the exhaust, goes into this building right here where there are 3 steam generators. And those steam generators, each one is assigned to each one of these components of the plant. And that's why it's so efficient. They capture that heat, and they generate additional megawatts from here. A couple of other things of note when you look at it is, look at these condensers right here, the coolers. This is an air-cooled unit. This plant is going to use a micro of either well water or surface water that the former coal plant that was on this site would. It's air-cooled condensers. And then you have demineralized water and backup fuel oil in the event of an emergency, where this plant is very flexible. It can run off of fuel oil, can run off natural gas, and who knows, maybe somewhere down the road, part of it will run off of hydrogen. But it has maximum flexibility that we kind of talked about in that regard. So that gives you an idea of where it sits, 61 coming in. It shows the substation down here. Another sub will be over in here. That'll orient you to what is going on this 190 acres. And that 190 acres includes the 2 substations and it includes the plant footprint. Roll on. So we said, well, it's similar technology. What do you mean by that? This is Jasper. It's a 3-on-1. What do we remember about that? You're going to see some common features here. You're going to see the air ducts. You're going to see the gas generator. You're going to see the HRSG, okay, and the duct firing. And the reason this is not a 1-on-1, 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 and a 3-on-1, count it. 1, 2, 3. See the piping going here? It's catching all of that heat and all that exhaust that's coming off of here from a 3-on-1, and it's carrying over to that steam generator that sits right there. So it's catching all the heat that's coming off of it, and it's a very efficient means. This is about a 1,000-megawatt plant down in Jasper, gas. Everybody talks about the size of what Kennedy's is and how big it is. We're getting 1,000 megawatts, just like Jasper. Rainey is about the same size on Santee Cooper. So it's not like we're building something big and bad. We're building something that is very similar to what we already have on the system that is serving South Carolina.
Thank you, Keller. I'm gonna hit now. This is actually Santee Cooper's Rainey facility. What you can, and my view is, it is a beautiful picture. This is energy generation at twilight. I mean, it's a beautiful picture. If I didn't want to stay married, I would have it right up on my mantle next to my picture of my grandkids. But I think it's a beautiful site. In the forefront here, you have our two combustion turbines, 1A and 1B, much like what Mr. Kassam was talking about. You also have the piping, the HRSG, that is attached to each of those to capture that combustion heat coming from those, effectively those jet engines. That is then fed into, actually converted to steam and fed into the white building over here on the right-hand side. That is where our one steam turbine engine is. And so this is a 2x1 configuration. It is our most efficient resource on our system. It has a capacity factor of over 85%. It dispatches at the lowest cost on our system, some generally from 1/2 to about 2/3 of the cost of our lowest coal plants. So it's an incredibly efficient, economic facility for us. What you don't see here off to the right-hand side is our combustion turbines 2A and 2B. Those do not currently have a HRSG between them in order to be able to generate additional electricity. However, this commission supported our application to move forward with a HRSG, and that construction is underway. It's going very, very well. We are up out of the ground. We are ahead of schedule and right on budget. That too will become an incredible resource for us. But I just want to take a step back. Again, I mentioned this is energy generation at twilight. It is a December evening. And so this system, even though you see absolutely nothing coming out of these stacks, the system is operating because it has ramped up to relieve the solar that has been supporting the system during the day. So it's operating. It's very effective. It's that ramping capability that enables us to maintain the reliable operations that we have and gives us the flexibility, as I indicated, to pair closely with solar so that we can continue to provide more intermittent resources on the Santee Cooper system. So much like what Mr. Kassam was talking about, again, it's very economic. It adds to our reliability. In fact, it is our most economic and reliable to date. However, it will be bypassed by the Kennedy's resource when we get it constructed because it is a even more advanced technology that will have even greater flexibility for the future. And so it is this is a wonderful resource. It's going to demonstrate that Kennedy's is going to be even better. And I'll turn it back to Mr. Kassam.
Thank you. One more thing to have you here. This is one of the things we'll get here in a second. This is the thing, being a South Carolinian all my life, this is the thing I'm most proud of as it relates to Kennedy's. You heard in the night hearings that a lot of people like to kayak on the Edisto River. They like to go journal down there. Sometimes even in the beauty of it, they forget to write in the journal. We heard that as well. Well, what we did here is we took all of this, 420 to 430 acres, was in timber production, and we took it out of production. We brought a big bulldozer on with a ripper on the back, and we ripped all the stumps out the ground. And we went back, and you can't really see it because of the timing of the year that this was taken, but we went back and we planted all of this in indigenous hardwoods that would have been here when the Native Americans roamed this land, to reestablish this for future generations to come. And then the next thing we did as we move on through here is we established this as a wetlands mitigation bank. So a lot of people can talk about enjoying this part of the country, but what we're proud of is that we set it there because these oxbow lakes with the cypress and the gum and the ospreys and the eagles and the deer and more water moccasins than you can count are in this area here, and it's beautiful. The Edisto River, I mean, no man could have formed, no person could have formed the oxbow lakes that you'll see here. And one of the things that we've done is we've partnered with the South Carolina Wildlife Federation. And next week they'll come in and they'll sign a bill from the General Assembly making that promontory warbler. I might not be saying it right, but it's that little yellow bird that's been named the migratory bird of South Carolina. And we've established over 50 with students and the South Carolina Wildlife Federation, about 50 of these warbler boxes. It looks like a wood duck box. You got your predator guard and your little box here. But these birds, they migrate up from South America and they come here in this area. And it's just absolutely beautiful. And what a privilege it was to be able to go out in these oxbow lakes and establish these and then go back and check these traps and see how they're doing. It's check traps, not traps, but the little houses to see how these birds are faring. And so the challenge for us is how do we provide the future energy of South Carolina from our facility, yet at the same time continue to be good stewards of the environment and somehow figure out how we can bring young people into this area so they can enjoy the God-given beauty of that Edisto River and see how they can be a part of continuing to be good stewards of the environment going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That includes my summary testimony.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Stanton, that's all of yours as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Well, now we'll proceed with any questioning. South Carolina Coastal Conservation.
Mr. Chairman, these gentlemen are available for any cross-examination questions that the parties may have, as well as questions from the commissioners.
All right. I was just saving a little time there. South Carolina Coastal Conservation League and Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. Ms. Mixon.
Good morning, Mr. Kassam, Mr. Staten. Kate Mixon on behalf of SACE and CCL.
Good morning, Ms. Mixon.
I am going to start with you, Mr. Kassam, but I will be kind of jumping back and forth between you both, if that's okay. Mr. Kassam, just briefly, I have a couple of questions for you from your summary just now about the public hearing and the ACE Basin. Is it really your testimony that the operation of the Kennedy's coal plant did not have a negative environmental impact on the ACE Basin or the Edisto River?
Based upon what I heard from the folks present and how they regaled the natural beauty and wonder of the ACE Basin, and based upon that testimony, the answer is no, it did not.
Okay, so the coal ash ponds had no negative environmental impacts?
No, ma'am.
The coal piles?
No, ma'am.
No negative environmental impacts?
No, ma'am.
And you testified that the coal ponds have been cleaned up and remediated, correct?
On the Colleton County side of the Edisto River, they have. We still have cleanup activities going on the Dorchester side.
Okay. If there was no environmental impact, Dominion wouldn't have needed to commit to clean them all up, would it?
They were all contained there on site, so therefore it was no environmental impact off-site, and therefore we cleaned them up in order to make room for the substations, for the plant in of itself to be located there as well.
Okay, and so it's your testimony the coal ash ponds had no potential environmental impact too?
They always have potential. I heard that word you said, potential. That's a strong adjective, and yet there's always potential. If you're not a good environmental steward and do not follow all the rules and regulations regarding such byproducts as coal ash, and South Carolina Electric and Gas Company, and now it's Dominion Energy South Carolina, endeavored to do that, to create a culture of regulatory compliance amongst all of our employees. That's my job every single day, and this is important as the safety of my linemen out there to be a good environmental steward. So we cleaned it up so we could have this footprint.
And you were at the public hearing, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear the testimony of the man who lived near the plant and would try and swim in the Edisto River near where the water was discharged from the plant?
Yes, ma'am. I couldn't figure if he got burned by the river or by the discharge water, or if he just spent all day in the sun and was sunburned. But he did say that he felt some heat coming there when he was in the river that day.
Right. I believe he testified that the water being discharged from the plant would get so hot that it could blister, didn't he?
He did.
Okay. Did you hear the testimony from an individual who grew up near the plant and testified about a blanket of air pollution residue that they would regularly have to wipe off of their cars or their homes?
He lived closer to the railroad than he did the actual plant, and so I think that it was probably coal that was coming up there and the coal cars as much as it was the plant. But yes, ma'am, I remember him saying that.
Okay, thank you. I am going to show you both a recent article in the state that came out after the public hearing in Walterboro. Okay. Do you both recognize this article?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay.
I do not.
Okay. Mr. Kasam, you spoke to reporters after the public hearing, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm just changed to a different page in this. Okay. Can you read the first sentence that is highlighted there? And please let me know if you need me to zoom in. I'm happy.
I'm good, thank you. Like a driving test here, eye doctor. The Kennedy's natural gas plant could also allow Dominion Energy to retire coal plants, President Keller Kasam said after the meeting.
Okay. Dominion has not made any firm commitments to retire either of its coal plants when Kennedy's come online. Is that correct?
We have made various regulatory filings in compliance with federal law that puts a time period on when we would commit in order to retire both Wateree, and there are 2 units at Wateree, 2 342 megawatt there and 600 megawatts down at Williams, made a commitment to retire those units in the early 2030s.
Okay, so you're saying that Dominion has committed to retiring its coal plants?
From a regulatory standpoint, I'm saying that we had to give a proposed date in which we would consider retiring those units based upon what federal law said at the time. Now, that federal law has yet been amended, but we did not amend our time period with regards to intention to retire those 2 facilities per federal law.
Okay. Dominion witnesses in this proceeding have testified that they have not committed to retiring the coal plants because keeping them online could provide additional flexibility for Dominion's system. If, for instance, load growth was higher than expected. Is that correct?
Well, I can tell you, absent Kennedy's, I can guarantee you we won't retire them because South Carolina will be in the dark when it matters most. So Kennedy's plus the peaking modernization and bringing on the peakers that we have, which you were a part of that. I'm very thankful for y'all's role and responsibility in that, building those peakers at Bushy Park, Parr, as well as another unit to go in at Urquhart. Those in combination with an all-energy portfolio, that's the best bet we got to be able to retire the coal units. So Arguing against Kennedy's is arguing against retiring coal.
Okay, Mr. Kazam, I'll have a couple more questions for you about that in a moment.
Sure.
Can you read the next sentence or the next paragraph that's highlighted here?
Do I like all the growth and everything going on in South Carolina? Can't really say I do. Oh, all right. Quit changing the thing on me now.
Apologies, I was asked to zoom in, so let me do that so you don't get dizzy here.
You leave it alone, I'll read it. I know I'm about to. Got to look away.
She's trying.
I see. Thank you.
Okay. Is that zoomed in enough? Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Mr. Kazam, sorry. Please continue.
That second paragraph.
Yes.
Do I like all the growth and everything going on in South Carolina? Can't really say I do, because Sam told reporters. My family's been here since the 1700s, but I'll tell you, we have one obligation, and that is to serve the load. So when you flip the light switch in the studio at home, the power comes on, and that's what Kennedy's is about.
Okay. So you agree not all growth is good, right?
You know, it's a dichotomy. I mean, I grew up in town of 33 in Calhoun County, and I don't like getting on the interstate. I take the back roads. I don't like seeing all the growth that's coming into South Carolina. And lately, I don't know how much I like my job, but I got an obligation to serve it. And that's why I'm here. It's not a matter of what I like. I don't have the ability to have an opinion. I only have the burden of making sure that when you flip on your lights or turn on your computer or, you know, set your thermostat on whatever it is, that instantaneously, minute by minute, second by second, we meet your needs and the others of South Carolina. So, no, I don't like the growth. But I know one thing, I got a responsibility to serve it. I don't like being here today. If you really want to know the truth, Miss Mixon, but you know what? Gotta be. Don't have any other choice. Everybody else is giving us options and choices, but you know what? There aren't but three entities that have that burden every single day when the lights are flipped on. Three balancing authorities: Dominion Energy South Carolina, Santee Cooper, and Duke Energy. And anybody else that talks about that process, they don't have that responsibility every minute of the day.
Okay. So that, I think, was a long way of saying you do agree not all growth is good, right?
I apologize for the length, but I don't think all growth is good, but we have an obligation to serve it, which is why we're here today.
Okay. And not all industrialization is beneficial either, right?
I mean, you got to take it as it comes, each on an individual basis. How many jobs is it going to create? What's its footprint going to be? What's the location of it? All those things have to be taken into consideration. You're asking me to make a broad statement on something that I can't do, because guess what? I deal with customers on an individual basis. I deal with industrial customers and commercial customers on an individual basis. All of them got an individual service line going to the house. All of them got an individual meter, and that's how I look at it. So I have a hard time kind of broad brushing stuff. I don't have that luxury.
Okay. Now, when you say Dominion has an obligation to serve the load, Dominion does not have an obligation to interconnect every new large customer that comes to it, does it?
Dominion Energy has an obligation to serve what loads locate within its assigned service territory.
Okay, so it's your testimony, Dominion, that Dominion cannot turn a large customer away if it's not able to serve them reliably.
That's part of an individual negotiation with that particular customer. I can tell you, in my 38-year career, and a lot of it's spent on the industrial side, I can't tell you how many hundreds and hundreds of industrial customers that came here looking to locate here, but didn't locate here for one reason or another. And I think when you look at an individual customer locating here, it starts locally, and we've seen that play out. It's a local approval from a zoning perspective. And then, of course, energy's brought in as far as that is concerned. Sometimes you have a Scout Motors that I was blessed to be involved with the governor's office immediately when they wanted to locate here. But there are a heck of a lot more of them that didn't locate here as a result of that. So the obligation is there. The fact of whether they're going to locate there or not is up in the air on a lot of other factors than I can go into detail here.
Okay. So if it's a negotiation with every individual customer, you would agree that Dominion has the ability to say, sorry, we are not able to serve that large of a load in this location reliably, given our system, correct? And you could say, nope, sorry, you can't interconnect here.
Your key word there, you hit on it, was location. I like the fact that you said location because you got to have two things got to come together. First of all, you got to have generation, kind of why we're here today. But then you got to have transmission. And a lot of them can't locate where they are because they don't have transmission. I can't tell you how many come and, some speculative investor buys some 100 acres here and says, oh, we want to locate here. Can you serve it? And we'll look at it and do a transmission study and look at it from that perspective and find out, no, we just don't have, it's not that we don't have enough juice. Maybe we don't have enough juice if the load is large enough, or we don't have enough juice in that location. It's a real estate thing, location, location, location. So, yeah, there are a lot of things that come into play. I don't make those decisions. The system makes those decisions. I interpret it for the industrial that's looking to come there.
Okay. So recognize you say you can't make those decisions. The system makes those decisions. Could the system make a decision that an industrial customer is not able to locate in an area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And Dominion presumably is the one that provides that information to the customer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Or maybe other entities. Might be the Department of Commerce, might be a local economic development group. But, yeah, we provide that information after study. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it sounds like the base answer is that Dominion could turn a customer away if it's not able to serve them reliably. Right?
Those are your words, not mine. We ain't going to turn them away. We're going to sit there and negotiate with them and explain it to them. They might look at other alternatives or other options if they really want to bring a facility like that to South Carolina, and we'll help them. It ain't as simple as a yes, no.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to another portion of the article here, another quote from you.
Can you take my picture out of it, please?
No, that's going to be in the record now, Mr. Sam. I think it's a lovely picture. Could you please read that paragraph for me?
Kassam of Dominion said new residents drove demand for the plant, not data centers. If new data centers came to Dominion service area, the utility would need to build even more generation to serve the electricity-hungry warehouses powering artificial intelligence and other digital services.
Mr. Kassam, if Dominion was not planning to retire its coal plants, would it still have a need for a new gas plant the size of Kennedy's just to meet residential growth?
Dominion Energy has plans to retire its coal plants based upon their age, 71 and 73, probably before your time. And, they've an asset that's been there for a long time. They're going to run out. They're going to run out of life here soon. So we got to be focused on that as well. And so Kennedy's is a great hedge towards being able to retire coal and also to serve any load that comes. I mean, look at Jasper County. That's the highest percent of growth on our system and everybody moving down there. I remember when Del Webb came, I went down there, we served them gas, and it was just like one little subdivision. Now it goes on for 6.5 miles. That's the kind of growth that's on our system and coming on our system. Look at Exit 5 down there. And so to sit there and try to just cast a pall on this by saying data centers is pretty short-sighted. You see the growth. You think I-26 and I-95 is being expanded because of data centers? I don't think so. It's being expanded because we've got all this migration and population growth of people coming to South Carolina. And do I like it? No, but it's there, and we got to serve it.
Okay. So, Mr. Kassam, I recognize I asked what you view as a hypothetical question here, but I would still appreciate an answer. If Dominion was not planning to retire its coal plants, would it still have a need for a new gas plant the size of Kennedy's just to meet residential growth?
Yes.
Okay.
And to bring more solar on our system as well, and to have a portfolio of generation that allows us to flexibly meet future growth on our system and also serve existing load on our system. Don't discount the age on those coal plants. You say retire. That seems like something that's intentional. Sooner or later, those units, just like the system, are going to cause us to have to retire them.
Yeah, we agree. We agree, Mr. Kassam.
Thank you. You
would agree, well, let me see. you have another quote in this article. Let me. I believe it's at the bottom of this page. I did not highlight it. It says you'll need additional generation on top of this to serve all the data centers that are out there. Because right now we just don't have any energy to even serve the data centers that are looking. Do you see that?
You don't like my reading?
Just thought we could try and be more efficient here.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am, I see it.
Okay, thank you. You would agree, wouldn't you, then, well, you would agree, wouldn't you? So that data center growth could create a situation where we end up with the Kennedy's plant being built, but also with coal plants staying operational for longer, and then potentially even more generation being built after that.
Yes, ma'am, especially the third thing you said, more generation being built out to that, because I don't think we're going to be able to rely on those coal units long term.
Okay. And so you would agree it's important to regulate data centers then, wouldn't you?
I think it's part of how we're regulated. Yes, ma'am. I think it all comes along with it. Yes, ma'am. It's load that we serve. We regulate residential, we regulate commercial, we regulate industrial. I mean, that's the business we're in. We're a regulated utility. So, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kassam, you've also discussed in many interviews and in your testimony the potential for the new pipeline that will serve Kennedy's to draw other industry to the area. Is that right?
It's primarily, no, ma'am. I didn't say to draw other industry to the area. I said that gas pipeline is going to serve Kennedy's and Kennedy's alone, and there's additional capacity to serve our gas LDC that is going to take gas to Charleston. Those are the only two entities that are going to take gas from that pipeline. Not industrial. There's no lineup of industrials out there chomping at the bit to get gas out that pipeline. It is made for firm gas going into the Kennedy's generating station and then into the gas LDC. Nothing else.
So you don't agree that there has been testimony in this proceeding about the potential for the new pipeline to create economic development opportunity in the area around the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, there are going to be jobs at Kennedy's. There might be jobs at the LDC as far as how Charleston growth in Dorchester County is backing up to Kennedy's site. So there'll be economic development opportunity there. But it's going to take that pipeline having an open season if somebody wants to have firm gas on top of what it's already done in order to serve Kennedy's as well as that. So we kind of splitting words here.
Okay. In another article, Mr. Staten, and I apologize, I don't have it in front of me, you were quoted as saying, "Everywhere natural gas comes, businesses follow." And so we think it's not just a great opportunity for us to get the electricity that the state needs, but it's also a great opportunity for economic development for those areas. Do you recall saying that?
I remember saying that, and my perspective, I agree with Mr. Kassam. The original pipeline that is being built specifically to serve us at Kennedy's and to serve Dominion's distribution business as well. What I was referring to is the fact that it is an expandable system, that there is the capability to grow or to add compression or something on that pipeline in order to get additional gas out of there. One of the items, for instance, would be if we were to require another plant in the Hampton area. That would be potential development opportunity. But I do believe very strongly that if the state, and again, Act 41 indicates that economic development is crucial to the advancement of the state of South Carolina. And so I do think ensuring that there are resources here that can support and supplement economic development that the state is requesting. I think natural gas is one of those things that might be able to support that.
Okay. And Kinder Morgan, in some of its materials about the pipeline, they have talked about the pipeline potentially being expandable to almost triple its currently anticipated size. Is that correct?
It's my understanding.
Okay, thank you. This could be a question for either of you. Maybe starting with you, Mr. Staten. Do you think that the Ace Basin is a good location for additional industrialization?
The pipeline that is being built by Kinder Morgan will follow along with the Act 41, which is it should run in energy corridors. And that energy corridor that it will run is on the outskirts of the ACE Basin. That's not just something that I believe, but it's also, I think it was Commissioner Murdaugh at the public hearing indicated that the new pipeline route does not really run through the ACE Basin. In fact, the other route that was considered does run right through the heart of the ACE Basin.
Okay, thank you. And there are certain properties within the ACE Basin that are under particular protections. Is that correct?
As far as I know.
Okay. Would you trust the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources to understand where the ACE Basin is?
I don't see why the Department of Natural Resources wouldn't.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to show a screenshot from DNR's website, and specifically about their ACE Basin characterization project. Zoom out here. And sorry, this takes a little while to zoom in and out, but I do want to show you the full page before I show you the specific section here. Okay. So again, this is a website from South Carolina DNR's website around about the a project that they have conducted around the characterization of the ACE Basin. Maybe look away from the screen for a second while I zoom back in here. Well, I just realized you can hold that button down and it goes a lot faster. Mm-hmm. That's very helpful. Okay. Are you able to read that highlighted text, or do I need to zoom in further?
I agree with Mr. Kazam. It's a little bit of a test, but I think I can do it.
Okay.
The boundaries of the study area are primarily based on natural resource conservation service hydraulic units or watersheds. The use of watershed units to define boundaries is consistent with an ecosystem approach to resource management and reduces emphasis on political boundaries such as those used to define cities or counties.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to flip this over because I do have this map. Well, actually, let me just zoom in on this one. Okay, now I recognize this is a little bit blurry, and apologies for that. But you would agree that the study area that's indicated there includes the area where both the pipeline and the power plant will be located, wouldn't you?
Well, I certainly don't see it on this map. I don't see where the pipeline is, but I do understand that the pipeline would run on the outer edge of the watershed area, and certainly we've had discussion already about the fact that the pre-existing brownfield site is in the ACE Basin.
Okay. Do you see Walterboro on that map? It is the middle dot.
I'll trust you. My eyesight doesn't do quite that, but I'll trust you that that's what it is.
Okay. If that is Walterboro, mm-hmm. The Kennedy's plant is not located like far to the north of Walterboro, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so the plant is located within this study area, correct?
Yeah, I thought I indicated that.
Okay, but well, sorry, I thought I heard you say that it ran along the north area of this study.
That was when you were talking about the pipeline, not the actual site of the facility.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, the pipeline runs along that edge in a energy corridor, and will continue as it approaches the plant. Will run through energy corridors.
Okay. So sorry, Mr. Staten, is it your testimony that the pipeline would run far north of Walterboro and then come back down south to the plant?
I'm not as familiar as perhaps Mr. Kassam is on the general area here. There are others on my team that are much more familiar with that route.
Okay. Mr. Kassam, I may turn it over to you. Is it your understanding that the pipeline would pass through this study area?
Yes, ma'am. The watershed you have here, as far as how water flows, is indicated here. The pipeline would. It comes from down yonder in Screven County, Georgia. Comes underneath the Savannah River, and then it starts kind of running in a northeasterly route to get up to just north of where Walterboro is, which is where Kennedy's is located. And it's interesting, you know, I've done a lot down in the Ace Basin. If y'all go down to Sheldon Church Road, you'll see that our transmission line is no longer there. I've got a good working relationship with the Ace Basin Task Force. I think you're aware of some of those members, Ms. Mixon. And, you know, when we first started this out, the first thing I did is I went and met with representatives of the Ace Basin Task Force and talked about what we were going to do at Kennedy's. And, you know, they're the ones that are, I mean, them individually have set aside their properties down there and conservation easements, a lot of them with Ducks Unlimited. And so I went to them because it's like kind of going to folks that are most impacted in that regard. And we can sit here all day and argue about what's the Ace Basin and what is not the Ace Basin. And you've given us an example here based upon how the raindrop falls and goes. I suppose there's some people that could come give you a hydraulical representation that goes all the way to Sassafras Mountain. But I went down and talked to the folks at the Ace Basin Task Force, and we talked about the two pipelines. And the leader of that organization told me, you're not coming through this southerly route because it's home to one of the largest gopher tortoise colonies in the southeast, and you ain't coming here. And I said, yes, sir. I said, well, how about this route? And I met with them 3 different times, and they said, we don't have a problem with this because it is so north. And their exact words were, and it doesn't touch the Ace Basin except for a finger of the Salkehatchie River that extends up through there. So based upon that finger of the Salkehatchie River, and based upon my 3 meetings with the individuals associated with the Ace Basin Task Force, I will confirm that this pipeline does go through the Ace Basin, what is considered the principal and proper Ace Basin of people who sit there and protect it every day. And they gave me a wonderful bumper sticker when I was there, too, and I love it. And it's on my truck. It says, more ducks, less people, and I like that as well. So, yeah, we've reached out to these people, and we've had good talks with these folks down there, making them well aware of what we're doing, and I consider them the experts on the Ace Basin, not me.
Okay. You talked about the pipeline using existing corridors. The pipeline is only estimated to run in 52% existing corridors, and the other 48% will be outside of existing corridors. Isn't that right?
I don't know the percentages off the top of my head. Mr. Randall can talk more to that when he gets up here and you have a shot at him.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kassam, briefly on the mitigation bank. So that mitigation bank was approved in 2022, correct?
That's correct.
So that was well before this plant was finalized.
You said finalized. It ain't finalized yet.
Sorry, well before plans for constructing this plant were finalized.
We
right?
plan on a 20 and 25-year horizon, so it would have been discussed at that particular time. What are we going to do for new generation? What are we going to do with the age of our coal assets? So, yeah, it was all a part of it at that time. Okay. We knew we were cleaning up coal ash. We knew we had a great opportunity on the Dorchester side of the Edisto River, and so, yeah, it was all a part of it. It didn't come prior without Kennedy's in mind, if that's the question you're asking. It did not.
Okay. Mitigation banks are used to offset other development, correct?
In some cases, if there's a market for it. But see, this one is located right down there on the Edisto River. So how much of a market are you really going to have down there with roads and things of that nature? It may assist DOT if they want to purchase credits and things of that nature. But this is not one that's going to be all that beneficial to anyone from that standpoint, because there isn't a lot of development going on down there from that perspective. So it may just sit there. And it may just be an open area where we bring people in. We got to raise the next group of people to care about South Carolina, and it's a great opportunity for that. So, yeah, it was all a part of this. We think about these things every day. We just don't go from docket to docket. We're trying to plan this over 20 to 30 years of what's best for South Carolina.
Subject to check, Dominion has already committed roughly half of the credits at that mitigation bank, hasn't it?
It'd have to be subject to check.
Okay. Did Dominion,
But whether they're committed or not, it's going to be there.
Okay.
It's going to be there. There's a wide open space, 420 acres on the Edisto. Kind of put your money where your mouth is when it comes to environmental stewardship. When you set something aside that, in your opinion, maybe be subject for the development. So I can soothe you by letting you know it'll never be developed.
okay. Did Dominion set that land aside because it was required to offset wetland impacts from its own destruction of wetlands at either Kennedy's or elsewhere?
No.
Okay. But Dominion could sell those mitigation credits to other developers.
If there's a market.
So. Okay. Thank you. Turning now to the South Carolina Energy Security Act, or Act 41. Both of you testified quite a bit before the legislature during the debates leading up to that legislation being passed, correct?
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
And both of you and many other of the joint applicants, witnesses in this proceeding, also discussed Act 41 in testimony.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. Mr. Kassam, in your direct testimony, for instance, on page 30, you discussed how Act 41 emphasized the importance of siting new generation for economic development. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you agree that Act 41 is important, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to show you a different section of Act 41. Apologies, I can't see how much of that is on the screen.
We see it. That's good.
Can you please read the section, the language in section 583720A?
You want me, Ms. Mixon?
Sure, Mr. Kassam. Would you read it?
The General Assembly declares that expanding utility investment in and customer access to cost-effective demand-side management programs will result in more efficient use of existing resources, promote lower energy costs, mitigate the increasing need for new generation and associated resources, and assist customers in managing their electricity usage to better control their electric bill, and is therefore in the public interest. The Commission may approve any program filed by a public utility if the program is found to be cost-effective.
Thank you. And then in 582720C, Act 41 also added a requirement for the Commission to require utilities to plan for and invest in all reasonable, prudent, and available energy efficiency and demand-side resources that are cost-effective, energy-efficient technologies and energy conservation programs in an amount to be determined by the Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And a little later in that section, it provides that the Commission could transfer a Dominion or any other utility under its jurisdiction their EEDSM responsibilities to a third-party administrator if the utility fails to meet those requirements. Is that right?
For the low-income energy efficiency duties. Yes, ma'am.
You'd agree that these energy efficiency provisions in Act 41 are just as important as the ones that you cite in your testimony.
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Kassam, in your testimony to the legislature about the provisions authorizing Santee Cooper and Dominion to work together for the Kennedy's plant, you testified that the plant would still have to undergo complete siting review. Isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that joint authorization would not change this Commission's obligations to thoroughly review this project under the Siting Act. Is that right?
Of course.
And Mr. Staten, you testified the same.
Absolutely.
Correct? Okay, thank you. Okay. Both of you recently did an interview with PBS's This Week in South Carolina that I think just came out on April 3rd. Do you recall that?
With Gavin Jackson, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I pulled some quotes from the transcript for that interview. Mr. Staten, in response to questions about the failed $9 billion VC Summer nuclear project, you stated, "We got to a point where I think as a state, as two companies, we reached a point where we just realized it's too costly. It's time to stop, and so we stopped." Do you recall that statement?
I do, and in large part, I was referring to the fact that that the two units that were sister units to VC Summer 2 and 3 were the ones at Vogel, and the estimates for the cost of Vogel at the end of the day, those two did get completed. At the end of the day, those were somewhere in the $38 billion range, and so the idea, and particularly when you have a project like a nuclear facility that was essentially first of its kind, that's completely dissimilar to the experience that we're having now, where we're building a facility like Kennedy's that is all over the country, all over the world. It's proven technology and is not a first of a kind.
Mr. Kassam, do you recall also stating that you abandoned units 2 and 3 because the cost became too prohibitive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you both testified to the legislature in 2024 that the cost of this plant would be $2.5 billion, correct?
When asked by someone as to what the costs were at that moment in time, I responded that I was very hesitant to give a price because prices were moving around, and that they committed they would not hold me to it, and so I did mention $2.5 billion. Since that time, and we indicated during that time that costs were continuing to increase, that states around us, like North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, were all making similar investments at the same time, and that supply chain issues were going to continue to get more challenging.
Excuse me. By November 2025, that cost had doubled to $5 billion, correct?
The cost that we estimate today, that includes the risk associated with ongoing changes like lining up labor and construction. We have that currently at $5 billion. We have taken the step to lock down the equipment. So about 25% of the costs have been, in our view, have been locked in. We've issued RFPs to EPCs so that we could lock in that, which would put us probably closer by the end of this year, closer to 90% of the costs locked in. And then we would continue to move forward beyond that.
Okay. If the costs continue to increase, is there a point where Dominion and Santee Cooper would say this is too expensive, we're not moving forward anymore?
It would be challenging. This is an incredibly important resource for the future of South Carolina. It's still, even with, as we ran through our IRP studies, even with a high cost scenario, including high fuel cost scenario, the equipment chosen was a combined cycle plant at Kennedy's. And so, but is there a price point beyond which nobody should go? That may well be there, but I don't believe we're there now. I believe we've built in risk levels, contingency, if you will, that gives us some room. But there continues to be competition for these types of resources. The other thing I would encourage is it's just very hard. You can't, as you're making these types of investments, have we seen a run up? We have seen a little bit of a run up in the cost. My experience, 40 or more years, actually, unfortunately, in the industry, is I've never seen costs come back down. So these are the costs, in my view, going forward of resources.
Okay. Would the joint applicants commit to coming to this commission with regular cost updates?
Actually, I think that's generally a requirement that ORS has as well. They will have a monitor for the facility. Actually, Santee Cooper, we will be bringing a team in place as we continue to develop this project. We'll have a team that will include schedulers, cost control folks, so that we are managing. We also intend to have our own independent monitor that will be reporting to our board, and as I'm sure you know, our board meetings are open to the public and live streamed, and so we will be providing, I believe ORS will also be providing regular reports to the commission and to the PERC and to the Joint Bond Review Committee.
Would joint applicants accept explicit condition on their certificate if it was granted that required regular prudency reviews of the joint resource leading up to and during construction?
The purpose of this project is, and the purpose of the review would be to analyze and continue to ensure that the project was moving along. I believe generally there's a separation in South Carolina between the development of the project and the recovery of the costs. My understanding, at least, is that there would be that review done at a point in time when those costs were going to be included. Not specifically necessarily for Santee Cooper. Our structure is a little bit different.
I'll say from Dominion Energy, Ms. Nixon, if you'll allow, that already exists today from a prudency review. And it's on the shoulders of those 7 individuals in front of me right now. And so, yeah, along the way, ORS, I think they have to select a third party to look at it. Santee Cooper is going to have to do that. We're encouraged by Santee Cooper having to do that. In fact, we're helping sponsor the contractual obligation that comes with that. So you're going to have 2 views of it as we go along with the Public Utilities Review Committee, as well as this commission, as well as the General Assembly. And so I believe firmly that is a good framework to be able to review the prudency of this as we go along. And I think it'll be a South Carolina group decision as we go along. And another thing I committed to the General Assembly, as did Mr. Staten, if a bolt doesn't show up, a piece of equipment doesn't show up, if anything is delayed along the course of this project, I've always learned bad news don't age well. So let's go ahead and bring it forward. Let's lay it out there for everybody. And let's be transparent and volunteer that information coming forward. And I think the spirit of all the parties operating collaboratively like that will absolve your concerns regarding, prudency and transparency.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kassam, Mr. Staten. Just to make sure I'm clear, so there is, in a rate case, generally, a review of costs for whether they were reasonable and prudent. That happens after those. That happens after those costs are already incurred. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you aware of a requirement generally in terms of a siting certificate that would require a utility to come back to the commission regularly and provide updated cost estimates, and then with the commission having the ability to say, stop construction. This is no longer worth moving forward. Stop expending those dollars.
The only thing I know is 38 years of appearing before this commission and their ability to look at things from a prudency standpoint, and I have experienced them disallow several things. You mentioned the rate proceedings. There have been significant costs that have been disallowed before, so it ain't like we're new to this party, and I respect that. Everybody has an opportunity, just like I have an opportunity to present my side. You have an opportunity to present yours, and I think that's healthy. But I think the commission certainly has that, and I'm not going to stand before or sit before these 7 today and in any way, shape, or form try to change that. based upon this line of questioning.
Okay. I just have a few more questions for you all about data center load growth. Maybe starting with you, Mr. Staten, would you agree that data center development, at least at the scale we're seeing today, is a pretty new phenomenon for the energy system?
I would agree. Well, let me say it differently. We have currently behind the system for a number of years. We've had a data center on the system. The proliferation and the pace has certainly increased, I would say, over the last 4 or 5 years. So I would agree with that.
Okay. And Mr. Staten, you testified before a state Senate panel, I believe it was August 2024, that 70% or more of Santee Cooper's load growth was from data centers. Isn't that right?
At that time, that was those were the numbers for the growth of the Santee Cooper system. Some of those signed, most of those signed, quite frankly. But it would still be, even at those levels, it would still have been a very small percentage of our total load on the system.
Right, but the incremental load growth, like the additional load, 70% at that time was from data centers.
At that time.
Okay. And Mr. Kassam, do you recall that you testified before that same panel that Dominion had 1,300 megawatts of data centers in its expected business pipeline, while industrial and manufacturing accounted for only 700 megawatts? Is that correct?
I don't recall, but I'll take your word for it.
Thank you. There's been more recent testimony at the legislature about data center growth. Mr. Kassam, are you familiar with testimony from Dominion lobbyist Jonathan Yarborough, where he testified before a state Senate subcommittee recently that 9 potential data centers of varying sizes were in the pipeline for Dominion service territory?
Can you tell me what in the pipeline means?
Using, I believe, his words.
Okay. Well, I'll try to speak for him and say that, we serve one data center. It's a facility that's west of Summerville. And, they came in, and you got to separate the wheat from the chaff on these data centers, because we got 2 men in a truck coming into South Carolina buying up 100 acres here, 200 acres here, and saying, hey, run these calculations for us, and we want to put a data center here. And they don't even have a client. And poor old Scott Parker and people like in transmission planning, they get ground to salt having to go through and do all of these. And these people, they're just in here speculating. It's like the land rush going on in South Carolina. Now, there are others. If you get one of the big ones, let's just say a Meta or Facebook, whatever you call it. I'm on none of them that want to come in here and use up, those resources. They know what they're doing. That one in Somerville, it located right next to a 230 kV line, and they take 230 kV voltage in there. They went and bought all their transformers and all that other type stuff. We looked at them a contract. It basically said, if they don't use any kilowatts, it won't be of impact to the residential and commercial. So it's through that contractual relationship that we manage those. The other ones, I don't have any right now that I think are going to get built right now, even though Mr. Yarborough said there are 9, in the pipeline. But if they find the right location, and it's a matter of national security, people say. They say we're in the AI race with China. We're going to do our part to accommodate those 9 that are searching and looking. And I've heard everything from them looking at 200 megawatts to 620 megawatts. We sure can't serve 620 megawatts. So it's just a kaleidoscope of speculation that's going on right now, but there's some of them that actually know what they're doing. Or we wouldn't be serving the one we're serving down in Dorchester County right now. So it is feasible that they're coming, and guess what? If local zoning allows them to come. I got a call from a very reputable real estate broker here in Columbia. And they're starting to get a little wiser because they bought 140-something acres near our 230 line coming out this summer. And they said, hey, we want to locate a data center here Is that feasible? I said, I don't know. We've got to study it. We got to look at it. We got to decide, do we have sufficient transmission capacity to locate there? Are you going to be satisfied with the terms of the contract we get? And I'm sorry to go on, but you ask about 9 in the pipeline. There needs to be a little color around what we're talking about, 9 in the pipeline. We're actively engaged with even more than that. However, I can't tell you how many will ultimately locate here. It's just those that find a sweet spot on our system and are willing to accommodate the demands that we place on them to connect into this system so that the residential and commercial customers are not impacted.
Okay, so you talk about separating the wheat from the chaff. So you'd agree there's a lot of speculative data center developers out there talking about projects that very well may never materialize.
It's crazy. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in fact, they may be talking to multiple utilities at once. Is that right?
All over the Southeast.
Okay.
And I hope they go to the other ones.
Okay. Before that same subcommittee, are you all aware that a Duke lobbyist testified that their data center backlog across the Carolinas has gone from more than 100 down to less than 5? If you're not aware of that.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, thank you. If a utility were to procure generation resources for projected data center load, there's a risk that that load may never materialize, right?
Could you repeat that?
If a utility were to, let's say, construct or pursue generation resources based on just projected data center load, including some of that speculative data center load, there's a risk that some of that load may never materialize. Is that right?
It's not that cut and dried. We plan generation out 20 years. These things can pop in here in 6 months. They can be constructed in 2 years. So it's not as easy as what you describe. My intention is that all generation that we build, I tried to explain that earlier. If Kennedy's, if that's what you're talking about in particular, it's going to run. Mr. Staten commented on that. It's going to be the most efficient unit on our system, whether the data center load comes here or not. If it allows for the retirement of Wateree units and or Williams, then yeah, it's going to run. It's not going to go unused. It'll be the most modern, efficient. It'll be the first to be dispatched on our system, just like our gas plants are today, as Mr. Staten testified to Rainey.
Okay. So I was asking more in general. If a utility were to incorporate speculative data center load into its load forecast and then pursue generation resources to meet that load, is there not a risk that some of that load might not materialize?
Mr. Chairman, she just asked that question, Mr. Kassam. We would object on those grounds as asked and answered.
I think it's a quite direct question, and I'm hoping for a direct answer.
I think you can answer.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Happy to. If you're asking it in general, there's always the risk. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Scout Motors up there and the investment that's been made to serve it. Is it going to materialize? A lot of discussion about that. You read about that in the paper too. And so you always have that risk when you're investing this. So yes, ma'am, in general, yes, ma'am. But it's not specific. There's no generation that is specifically assigned to a specific load on the system. And I'm not saying you're inferring that, but you kind of lead me down that pathway, it seems to me.
I was not intending to lead you down that pathway, Mr. Kassam. I think we also agree on that. The resources that are on the system will serve all of the loads that are on that system. Right?
Yes, ma'am. And you always run the risk that, that's why you have dispatch capability. There are units right now on our system that aren't running to serve load. So it isn't just a long-term look. It's a daily look. Solar's kicking it probably right now, but it's going to go to zero here coming up. And, those units will come back up. So you always have this up and down as we operate the system each day. I know you're looking long-term, but yeah, that possibility could exist.
So you mentioned data centers could be operational in 2 years, maybe 3 years. Electric generation, like the proposed joint resource, requires a lot longer of a lead time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Even if growth in data center development does continue, efficiencies in data center technology and load flexibility may also improve, right?
You talking about something I have no knowledge. I don't know what goes inside those concrete bunkers with all those servers. So you may know, but I don't. I've never been in one.
Thank you both for your patience and your time. I think those are all of my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mixon. We're going to take about a 15-minute break. If everybody could be back in place at 12:15, we'll continue, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do about a lunch break. I'm wondering if maybe if somebody could talk to our attorney if there's a problem with running maybe till 6 o'clock tonight. I don't know if anybody's planning on that, but this thing is going to take some time to properly vent. So please be back in place at 12:15. We're in recess. Good afternoon. We're back on the record on 2025-323E. We are presently taking cross-examination questions from the parties as to the first witnesses as presented by Dominion and by Santee Cooper. Ms. Mixon, it's my understanding you finished your cross-examination, and from there we would move to Sierra Club.
Good morning. I just have a few questions for Mr. Staten, so this should be very quick. Mr. Staten, as Ms. Mixon asked, you provided an estimate of the joint resources total cost to a special Senate committee back in August 2024. Is that right?
I did.
I'm going to just show you a state article about this testimony on the projector, if I can work it right. Okay, this is just the cover of the article. Can you please read the underlined text on page 2?
I'm sorry, say that again. I was looking.
That's okay. I hope you can see it. But can you please read the text that is underlined and bracketed on this page of the article?
Want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thanks.
While discussing the project in front of a special Senate committee in August 2024, Santee Cooper CEO Jimmy Staten said the project's estimated cost was $2.5 billion. It should be north of the $2.3 to $2.5 billion, or in that $2.3 to $5 billion total range, Staten said at the time. When asked by Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey, Republican of Edgefield, if that was the total cost Santee Cooper and Dominion Energy would split, Staten replied, "That's correct."
Thank you. So the quoted costs that were in the $2.3 to $2.5 billion range are about half the current estimate of $5 billion, correct?
Yes, that math sounds correct.
And good. And you mentioned in response to Ms. Mixon that the doubling in cost of the joint resource within about a year may have been due in part to supply chain issues. Is that right?
The cost of combustion turbines, because of the significant demand in the United States and around the world, the cost of combustion turbines has gone up. Yes.
Can you guarantee the joint resource will not face any more supply chain issues throughout its roughly 7-year construction process?
We have ordered the combustion turbine, the step-up transformers, and the pertinent facilities, and so we are in line for those. So while I don't anticipate it, I would be hesitant to say nothing could ever happen, but like I said, we've locked in our place in line for those facilities.
Okay, thank you.
And those are going to be delivered well before the 2033 timeframe for the project, and so we feel pretty comfortable. Even if there were some minor delays, they would not delay the ultimate development of the project.
Thank you. Mr. Staten, are you willing to guarantee that the total cost of the joint resource will remain at or below $5 billion?
Can I didn't hear the first part of the question.
Okay. I can ask again. Are you willing to guarantee that the total cost of the joint resource will remain at or below $5 billion?
While I've indicated that we have built-in risk of labor costs increasing, risk of equipment increasing, I could not sit here today and say that there's no possibility that it would exceed $5 billion, but we remain fairly comfortable with the number.
Thanks. And can you guarantee the total cost of the joint resource will not double again, say to $10 billion?
Can I guarantee that? I don't anticipate it at all based on what we are seeing, particularly given the fact that we've locked in. We'll know a little bit more when we lock in the EPC later on this year, along with the projected labor costs at that point. So again, while I don't anticipate that, it would be hard for me to imagine that it were to double.
Okay, and likewise, would you be willing to guarantee the total cost will remain below $20 billion, for example?
I would be very confident that it's going to be below $20 billion. I can't anticipate a reason why the numbers would expand to that level, nor can I, quite frankly, imagine why they would expand to a doubling of where they are today. Again, we'll know a bit more as we continue the development process here, and that information, as we've indicated previously in front of the Senate and here, we will continue to be transparent on what happens with our costs.
Okay, thank you. And currently, the entire cost of constructing the joint resource will be borne by the joint applicants' ratepayers, right?
That's correct.
And even if the costs increase above $5 billion, those additional costs will still fall on the joint applicants' ratepayers, right?
Like all of the costs that we incur, we would pass those costs on to our customers, assuming that we didn't do other things to reduce costs or manage the system a little bit differently. Also, we'd have to consider what kind of growth we continue to see on the system as to whether that would be a full increase or whether we would be able to mitigate some of that.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you very much. Frank Knapp, Jr.
It is now. Good afternoon, everybody. And hello, Mr. Kassam, Mr. Staten.
Hey, Mr. Frank.
How are you? Thank you. First, Mr. Kassam, you're very proud of being born and raised here in South Carolina, and I commend you for that. You're 66 was your date of birth?
Yes, sir. If you're going to expose me here. 1966.
All
yes,
right.
sir.
So 60 years you've been. Do you know that I've lived in South Carolina for 52 years? So I am also very proud of South Carolina. I'm very, very happy with its with the people here, and of course, as you know, the small businesses of this community. But I just wanted to make sure you understood that I share your feelings about the state.
Yeah, we got a lot of people getting here in different ways, but we're all proud to get here once we're here.
Well, mine was a long time ago getting
yes,
here.
Yes,
sir. So the questions I have about this joint application is for a certificate that includes public convenience and necessity. And I got to tell you, I've looked far and wide to figure out in the code what the definitions of public necessity and convenience are. Can you help me with that, Mr. Staten? We'll start with necessity.
Sure, I'll take on both. I can tell you that I see it every day. Public convenience. You probably got up this morning and took a shower. You probably turned on the lights. Maybe an alarm clock went off to wake you up so you could get here on time. I noticed when you walked in, you weren't the earliest, but you got here. And I would say that's convenience. What people expect. That's convenience. That stoplights work when you're driving around town. That, public service folks are able to go about doing their jobs. That's the convenience. And then the necessity. I've seen the necessity of what this product or what we have to deliver after a hurricane. I've lived through Hugo, Helene, all of them in between. And I see what necessity means as well. So you represent the convenience simply by looking as dapper and showing up as you did this morning. And then the necessity comes when I've seen customers for 38 years, they're without it. And we're trying so hard, bringing crews from all different states around the union to bring it back on. So convenience and necessity are not two words that I look up in a dictionary. They're something I've been privileged to live every day. And thank God I've been able to serve the people of South Carolina because I wake up every morning and thank the good Lord for that opportunity.
Oh, thank you. By the way, you look dapper also. Mr. Staten, can you define public necessity and then public convenience?
Well, again, I agree with Mr. Kassam, but I think from my perspective, the public convenience is and the need. The need is apparent that we are seeing growth beyond our capability to provide today, and so I think in order for us to continue to meet the needs of the state, we need capacity in the state in order to assure that we can continue to provide the basic necessities that people have. I mean, Mr. Kassam's not wrong. Folks need to be able to utilize electricity as they see fit. Businesses need to be able to operate, and so I think we've seen the need, and we are trying to meet that need.
And convenience?
Again, the convenience is living the lifestyle that the state expects, developing additional business opportunities in the state.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Did either of you, with your witnesses, specifically talk about necessity and convenience?
I had it in my summary testimony, and I also have it in my regular testimony. If you want me to reference it, I will.
Mr. Staten?
We talked about, my testimony discussed the need for the certificate. Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's set that whole issue aside for a second. Mr. Staten, and I'm going to replow some ground here that our friends from the Sierra Club said. In a Senate committee meeting on August 22nd, 2024, you were asked by Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey, what was the cost of building a 2,200 megawatt gas plant at Kennedy's? And you said, I think you've already confirmed this by reading it, it should be north of $2.3 to $2.5 billion total range. And Senator Massey's follow-up question was, is that the whole project total? And you answered yes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, good. How was that figure arrived at?
We utilized the information of historic, when I say historic, the most recent construction activity that had happened in the industry for natural gas combined cycle plants at that point in time. So in the 22 to 23 and 24 timeframe, utilizing some engineering support that we have from some of our consultants. That's how we developed the price at that point in time.
All right, so it was very recent historical information. Okay, that's
at that time, correct.
At that time, of course. When the state legislature was debating House Bill 3309 in 2025, because you talked about the $2.5 billion estimate, that was during that 2024 also, correct? You were using a figure?
It would have been in that 22 to 24 timeframe.
Yeah. And then when the House and Senate were debating House Bill 3309 in 2025, did you try to upgrade that estimate and provide a newer estimate to the General Assembly?
I don't believe I did at that time. I don't know that we'd done the further analysis at that point in time.
Okay, so you were probably using data that was 2022, 2023, 2024. Okay, but you were still using that estimate in 2025. Mr. Kassam, same question to you. Did you try to update the $2.5 billion estimate in 2025 when House Bill 3309 was being debated?
I didn't give an original number, so therefore there was nothing for me to update.
Okay. That was a safe way to be.
Well, that's how it was.
I certainly understand. Okay, so when the legislature did pass House Bill 3309, which turned into Act 41, that included the green lighting of that joint project between Dominion and Santee Cooper to build a 2,200 megawatt gas plant. At the time, the legislators believed that the cost would be $2.5 billion plus transmission upgrades. Is that correct, Stanton, Satan?
We did have some conversations during that time frame to adjust to indicate we were seeing price increases. So I can't speak specifically to what they had in mind when they approved the legislation.
So you do not know if they were, most of the members of the General Assembly were thinking that the cost was going to be $2.5 billion.
I can't speak to what they thought. I can speak to what we have indicated, and since then we did update the legislature on the total cost.
No, I understand, but you did not update them with a figure that it could be more than 2 point, or come up with another estimate in 2025.
I did not come up with another estimate, but as you indicated, we said it would be north of the 2.3 to 2.5 billion dollar range. And again, I indicated then that I was very hesitant to give a number because we were seeing changes.
Okay, but a number was important to the members of the General Assembly.
I'll take your word for it.
I'm asking you.
Did
they ask you for a number?
They asked me for a number, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kassam, same question. When you were, and your people were down at the General Assembly in 2025, did you ever, or your staff, ever use the figure of $2.5 billion as the plus transmission upgrades?
I can't speak for my staff, only can speak for myself. In my testimony, the answer is no.
Okay, so you do not know that that any of your people who work with the General Assembly use that figure of $2.5 billion?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. So the legislature, we're here today basically because the legislature, having heard the arguments for why Dominion and Santee Cooper needed more energy generation, made the decision that it was in the public interest, yet yes, even public necessity, that the ratepayers of your utilities pay $2.5 billion for the construction of the 200 megawatt gas plant. Is that your conclusion from how we got past 3309?
Dominion Energy South Carolina would be here absent Santee Cooper to build some form of gas generation on the site at Kennedy's. Okay. It was only through my relationship with Mr. Staten and his staff at Santee Cooper that we work very closely with day in and day out, that we should try to achieve efficiencies based upon the optimal site to try to build a joint facility. And that is what the legislature gave us the ability to do. They took nothing from this commission. We still have to come here and get this cited, hence I'm here. But I can assure you I would be here absent Mr. Staten. What the legislature did was put Mr. Staten here because they authorized the joint construction of a co-owned asset. And Santee Cooper needed that authorization, not Dominion Energy South Carolina.
Right. And Mr. Staten, but you do, I'm sorry, Mr. Kassam, but do you agree that when the General Assembly passed 3309 with the encouragement of you two working together, they thought that with your presentations there was this public necessity for more generation and that they had been told that the cost would be $2.5 billion?
There was a need. There was absolutely, we believe, and I still believe now, that's why we're moving forward here, that there is an absolute need. That and we did identify, and I'm proud to work with Mr. Kassam. We both had identified that we needed a natural gas combined cycle plants, and rather than build two separate ones with all the issues that could be associated with that, we thought it was better to take advantage of the economies of scale and build one together, particularly at a brownfield site. That was very consistent with what Act 41 was expecting.
And Mr. Knapp, one thing I'd like to add, and of course, Mr. Neely will be coming up later from our company, but even if you put a $5 billion price tag on it and you run the modeling, the Integrated Resource Project modeling still selects this generation resource going forward versus comparable resources that it took into consideration. I think that's important to make that statement as well.
As does Santee Cooper's IRP.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Staten, we were just talking about May 2025 when the General Assembly passed House Bill 3309, turned into Act 41. Then in November of 2025, the public learned through the media that the construction cost of the gas plant at Kennedy's had doubled to $5 billion. But actually, Santee Cooper knew that the cost had doubled when you sought approval for the project from the Santee Cooper Board of Directors at its October 2025 meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct. We used the $5 billion number. That's correct.
Okay, so you knew that before you went to the board meeting, you knew that. When did you find out that the plant would be about $5 billion?
As we updated the process in the plan to move forward here and get board approval to begin the full partnership and moving forward, we asked our consultants to give us an updated cost for the facilities based on the then current information.
All right, so the bill passed in May, so it's June, July, August, September, October. So 5 months after the bill passed, you found out that the price had doubled.
We received the information during that time frame. That was the cost. That's correct. Well, and if you're asking me specifically when I knew, I'm sorry, I can't tell you what date that was or what month, quite frankly, that was. But when we were preparing to move forward, we wanted to provide the most current information we could.
But it happened sometime between May and October of 2025.
Mr. Chairman, we're happy to stipulate that the cost was 2.5 then, and that was the cost that was provided, and the best estimate now is $5 billion. I think the witnesses answered that, but I'm happy to stipulate that if that helps smooth this along.
All right, and I think from the testimony that pretty much do not know what the cost is going to be at this point.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, repeat that.
From the testimony, apparently there's nobody can say exactly what the cost is going to be at this time.
Correct. It's an estimate, but we would stipulate to those estimates.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, Mr. Knapp, let's kind of move on from that.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Okay, so as far as we know, the last time you got some type of estimate, it was $2.5 billion. That's what the General Assembly thought when they passed it in May of 2025. And then 5 months later, it doubled. So you didn't think of getting a new estimate prior to May of 2025?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Was that a question?
Yes, I'm sorry.
We had not experienced, I believe, and seen the significant cost increases during that time, and so we went out again in preparation to move forward. We asked for an updated estimate so that we could provide the best information possible.
Okay, thank you. Is it true that the revelation of the doubling of the construction cost estimates for the Kennedy's plant came as a little bit of a shock to some of our state legislators? Mr. Staten?
Excuse me, objection, Mr. Chair. Again, he's already testified that he can't represent the state of mind of the General Assembly. He can just testify on what he provided. So it's asked, answered, and obviously, we can keep going down this road, but it's just taking a while, and given the long list of other interveners, I just point that out.
I sustain that objection.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, let me just say that I will share with you one of the members of the General Assembly, his comments. This is Senator Shane Massey. His quote: "It's frustrating to me that customers are having to pay for VC Summer That's not completed. And then also going to have to pay for Kennedy's as well. But it's even more frustrating if now you're telling me that 8 months later the price is doubled. So at least one member of the General Assembly was a little frustrated by the new estimate. Mr. Staten, the Joint Bond Review Committee on December 2nd, 2025, 1 month after the $5 billion estimate became public, the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, Senator Harvey Peeler, tried to find a way to stop any further cost increases. He asked you, Mr. Staten, quote, would any action today lock this in? Referring to the $5 billion cost. Quote continues, or are you going to do increases along the way? Do you remember your response?
I don't.
Okay. I'll help you with this off the transcript. It says you say the estimate includes risk dollars, and it may end up being less overall. What are risk dollars?
Risk dollars, and in fact, I've talked about it a fair amount today. We've included risk dollars in anticipation. Some people call it contingency. Others call it risk dollars. Risk dollars are, here's what we believe the estimate is, but if you run a number of different permutations, like we do, for instance, with our IRP, what could happen? What if the cost of labor went up? What if some of the equipment costs went up? What's the impact there? And so we believe, again, we have built in risk. Does that mean the only number is possibly $5 billion? It doesn't. But we feel like we put risk dollars in there so that we could deliver the product at or around the cost that we believe that they are.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Also, Mr. Staten, at that same meeting, Senator Peeler was so concerned about the higher cost of the project and what it would mean to Santee Cooper and the electric cooperative customers, he asked you, quote, would Dominion take on your 50% if you asked? And your response, if you remember, they would still move forward. It might be a smaller project, but they would still move forward. Is that an accurate response that you gave?
It is accurate, and I think Mr. Kassam just confirmed that they would be here in front of the commission seeking a natural gas plant, irrespective of whether Santee Cooper was a partner with them or not.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Kassam, would Dominion move forward with the project if Santee Cooper pulled out?
We hadn't considered that. We haven't considered that because our intention is to move forward. I mean, we bought the power block where the turbines are going to be, where the transformers are going to be, and we spec'd all of that out for a partnership between ourselves and Santee Cooper. And so having made that commitment on those, like the generator step-ups and things of that nature, our commitment is going forward with Santee Cooper as a partner to bring this South Carolina energy asset to fruition. People have been concerned about the cost. We're trying to minimize the cost impacts by going ahead and ordering this. Mr. Staten talked about the RFP we have out for the EPC, which is going to lock down, the cost of this going forward. And so our intention is to build it with Santee Cooper, and I can't even give your question consideration because I don't think we would do it alone.
Okay.
Based upon the components that we've already ordered for the size of plant that it's going to be.
Okay. So if something should happen, though, and Mr. Staten is forced to withdraw, you'd be moving forward with that $5 billion plan.
No, I said just the opposite. We've already ordered it. Our intention is Santee Cooper is a partner, and they're a part of it. Now, whatever force of nature that you're trying to predicate or predict out there that's going to come in and keep him from doing it, I guess we'll have to take that up, and it'll be, a decision far beyond me if we get to that. But our intention is to go forward with Santee Cooper as our partner, and there's no way that I would entertain any other suggestions from you or any other person in cross-examination before this commission. We're here today to get this plant sited, to construct it and build it so we continue to serve the energy needs of South Carolina.
Thank you. That force of nature was Senator Harvey Peeler. That's who I was referring to. All right, gentlemen, I understand this is a citing hearing. It's not a rate case. But part of that certificate does go back to the public necessity and public convenience. And since we don't have a regulatory definition, and I might say that in the law, they define everything, but they didn't define public necessity or public convenience. So it's up for us to make that determination. And obviously the General Assembly thought that it was a public necessity to build more energy. Both of your organizations said that you needed a 2,200 megawatt gas plant. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Staten?
That's correct.
All right. So they were using the information you had provided them. And we've already covered the ground regarding the data centers where, you did talk to, out of questions from Representative Caskey at that meeting about 70% your new energy demand data centers. At the time, you said that it was, and that demand, from what I hear from your people who testified at Senate committees, that demand has diminished. Okay. So the legislature did decide to encourage you to greenlight this joint application for the 2,200 megawatts at, again, my words, and I'm assuming that I'm reflecting the comments from Senator Massey also, that they believed it was $2.5 billion. Do you, and just asking, you don't have to answer it, do you think that the General Assembly would have signed off on the 2,200 megawatts if they had been told the price was going to be $5 billion?
Again, I hesitate to speak on behalf of the legislature, but based on all of the IRP work that we've done with this commission, and the indication there that even at this cost, it is what the model chooses, then again, I think it would be prudent to move forward. But I can't speak as to what believe me, I can't speak as to what the legislature would do.
But in your answers to, I believe, Ms. Mixon, when they asked about the costs, you had indicated that there is a cost at which you shouldn't build.
I don't, did we answer that there was a cost? Yes, we answered that there was a cost. Have I heard of any intent to reverse in this last legislative session after having heard what the revised number was? I haven't seen any of that either.
Yeah, that is correct. Of course, they did not take it up again. You're absolutely correct. Okay, so unlike the VC Summer Plant under the Base Load Review Act, where your old SC&G, and but basically SC&G because you had to come before the Public Service Commission and ask for more money over and over and over again for the construction. Do you have to come back if the $5 billion estimate goes up to $6 billion for construction? Do you have to ask for permission from the commission?
We would come before this commission for a prudency review to determine what costs associated with this facility were prudently incurred, and then would go into rates.
But that would happen after it's built.
I answered your question.
Well, then I need to have a little explanation for your question. See,
We would have to come before this commission regarding prudently incurred costs regarding the construction of this asset through a prudency review, part of the normal rate process that we go through.
Correct. But again, that would be after it's used and useful.
That is correct.
Okay. So there's no guarantee, obviously, as you can say, that's $5 billion or $6 billion. And the prudency, my experience is that anything that is a real cost and you use it and you put it in, implement it, is considered prudent. That's typically the way it works, which then can drive up the cost. So do you think that, and this is a question for both of you, since there is no review of escalating costs going forward until the unit, the facility is built and is used and useful, do you think it's prudent then for this commission to set a price at which they say that the ratepayers would be responsible for paying for construction, much like they did in VC Summer?
No, sir. I believe that in this case, the Office of Regulatory Staff, the same General Assembly that you've brought into the room here today, they put some markers in place so that it doesn't happen, and that is you should take assurance that the Office of Regulatory Staff has a third party construction analyst that's going to be looking at everything associated with this, and they're going to report back to PERC. They're going to report back to the General Assembly. And they're going to also report to this commission as construction is ongoing. Santee Cooper, likewise, and we support this, as I said earlier, will have another marker out there that will be reviewing construction activities and cost, and I assume cost escalations, cost de-escalations, project summary that they'll be providing to the Santee Cooper board. So you've got the commission, you've got the Santee Cooper board, you've got the Office of Regulatory Staff, you've got the Public Utilities Review Committee, and you've got the General Assembly. And I think all of them at any time could require that that information be presented to them in whatever form or format that they desire, to include the Chairman of Finance, Senator Peeler, that you just referenced earlier, at any time. And I think that will give certainty and assurance that will provide them with a porthole into what exactly is going on with this construction. If they ask me to appear, or Mr. Staten to appear, or Mike Fennessy to appear, or Andrew Walker to appear, I can assure you that we will come at their choosing and at their time, as we do all the time from that perspective. So I just want to, you're really on the cost. I can tell you this, like I told the General Assembly, I can guarantee you one thing, it won't be $2.5 billion. And I can tell you today, it won't be $5 billion. It'll be some other figure. But all we're going to do is try to build it as low to budget as we can and on schedule. That's what we're going to do. I didn't see anything in the act that said, hey, there's a cost in it. It just said, Santee Cooper, Dominion Energy, Santee Cooper is authorized to enter into the study of a joint resource, and then you go, and where do we bring it? Before this commission for citing, and we'll bring it back to this commission, at least Dominion Energy, South Carolina will do, to look at the prudency of our actions. And I assure you that is something that gives me significant motivation to stay on top of this project. It's like 5 hurricanes all at one time. Because the thing you don't want to do, and everybody wants you to give a cost. Why? Because if it comes in under, nobody's going to say anything. If it comes over, well, there you just walked into the bear trap. So anybody in here that's built a house or done anything else, heck, even go buy a car and you think it's going to be the sticker price, and then they throw the warranty on you and all this. You know it with the small chamber what goes on, and so that's reality. So to come in here and pipe it to you so that it gives you some warm and fuzzy, we're not doing that. It's a construction project, and they're going to be puts and they're going to be takes, and we're going to try to make sure that we have more takes out of it to represent the ratepayers of Dominion Energy South Carolina, the electric cooperatives of South Carolina, and Santee Cooper, and make sure that everybody is aware and we're all walking hand in hand as we complete this project.
Well, thank you, Mr. Staten.
And I would agree with everything Mr. Kassam just said. I would add, however, that every time Santee Cooper goes out to borrow additional dollars, we appear before the Joint Bond Review Committee. And so there, in addition to everything else that we've talked about, in addition to the fact that Santee Cooper will have its own independent monitor for the board, our board meetings are streamed and are open to the public. We will be providing greater transparency. ORS will be providing greater transparency. Santee Cooper will be appearing regularly before the JBRC in order to borrow funds to continue this process. And I fully expect that Senator Peeler is going to want to hear from me where we are from a cost perspective and where we are from a project perspective overall. And so there are a number of safeguards that are built in. So I don't see any reason.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dayton. Mr. Sam, you had first told me that you did not bring up any cost figure when you were talking to General Assembly, but you just got done saying that you told the General Assembly that it would not be $2.5 billion.
Yeah, based upon what Mr. Staten said when we were sitting next to each other.
At a legislative meeting in 2025?
I don't know when it was. There were a number of them before the House, and then we went before the Senate. And Mr. Staten threw out the $2.5 billion, and all I said was, I guarantee you it won't be $2.5 billion.
Oh, you were right.
So I was going off of what he said from that standpoint.
Okay,
and no, it's not me taking credit for being right. I just have done construction projects, be it transmission lines, distribution, whatever, and it's never going to be what you think your estimate is going to be.
Gentlemen, you also just said that you didn't think the commission ought to put a price cap on what the ratepayers would be responsible for paying, correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Staten?
Ask the question again.
You had just both, I believe, have said that you didn't think that the commission ought to put some type of price cap on what the ratepayers would be responsible for paying for this project.
That's correct.
Let me ask you this follow-up then. Do you think that this commission has the authority to put a price cap on the cost of this project that the ratepayers would be responsible for paying?
I don't know, sir.
I have, yeah.
No, there's not this. No, it's a different question.
As he came in and he told you there are different processes. He answered you that there's a process to come in for rate determinations and prudency reviews. So he's answered your question.
No, sir, he has not.
I
There are
have
two
to
different
sustain
questions.
that objection. We need to move on with this.
Oh, I'm ready to move on, sir, but there's a big difference between what they think you ought to do and what they think your authority is to do. But I am done. I thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. It is 1 o'clock. I think we're going to have to take a lunch break now. We got a long way to go with this case, apparently, and I don't want to limit anybody, but if we could be back in place by 10 minutes after 1, 10 minutes after 2, then yeah. You were talking drive-through here. 10 minutes after 2, and we will resume. We are in recess until 2:10.